All right, welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop streaming show. We are starting this evening with a recent controversy of Rutgers that's happening at Rutgers Newark. I get a call early yesterday morning from Ed Riley. Ed Riley, what did you hear? What did you hear?
Well, I mean, obviously we want to say welcome to everybody to All Politics Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Of course, my name is Ed Riley. I'm one of your hosts. And to the right, up top, is what's your name with the blue sweatshirt
Oh,
on?
I'm not sure. I wait. It's right here, Jonathan Alston.
Ah, okay.
All right, I had to read it.
Down the bottom is another brother who's a host. What's your name, brother?
What's my name? What's my name? That's
Wow.
my Cassius Clay. Zaid
Good.
Muhammad, y'all. Brother Zaid in the
Brother
house.
Zaid Muhammad. So we're all three your hosts, and welcome to All Politics are Local. We'll give you the rundown. We have a number of things that are going to be coming up. We're going to start with something that's very hot in our community. But first
Ed
up,
woke up. Ed was like, "Hey, man, you got to hear what's going on. You got to hear what's happening."
right. So sort of sent that to Jonathan, and decided we wanted to just try and find out what was going on because obviously what I'm going to share with you guys now is somewhat personal to me, and I'll tell you guys why that is. But let me just tell you what I woke up to. It was in Newsbreak, and it said that Rutgers won't renew Newark Chancellor's contract, and then of course it says city mayor and political leaders object to that. So I read this first statement that I saw. It said that Rutgers President Jonathan Holloway announced that Cantor's contract would not be renewed in June of next year. In a public letter released to the university community Wednesday, he praised Cantor, of course, for her exemplary tenure and her sterling contribution to Newark in the same letter, saying there may be no other chancellor in the country as committed to the impact that a university can have on the host community as an anchor institution.
And Ed, with that, right? That kind of made me feel some kind of way when I read that because he's like, "You've done so much for Newark. You have done so much for the more for local community
Right.
in that city. I've been a partner and an ally to the leadership of that city. You've been really great for what you've been able to do for Newark, but you got to go." Like, what? Wait, hold on. Like, if that's not important, then are we not important?
Right.
Mr. Holloway, what's up? Talk to me.
Right. So, of course, I saw that, uh, somewhat a little disturbed by that, and for a number of reasons, and then let me just say that, of course, the mayor responded to that as well. Mayor Baraka of our great city himself, along with a number of other elected officials in the city. But let me just read two statements that the mayor said about that.
And, and,
So
and then we'll go right into introducing our guest.
that's right. So of course, Mayor Baraka said Cantor's leadership strengthened the college going culture in Newark with scholarships, free counseling to Newark youth on the college application process, increasing Newark resident enrollment by 60%. Let me say that again, increasing Newark resident enrollment by 60%, and research
Right.
on housing affordability. Quote, to discard Chancellor Cantor is taking two steps backwards, Baraka wrote. It disrupts a long and hard fought progress that Newark is journeying on. It flies in the face of the collective work that we have been doing many times with Chancellor Cantor's insistent, her commitment, and her sheer will. Therefore, I, along with the following, and he lists a whole bunch of elected officials here in the city of Newark,
Right.
that, of course, also signed the letter.
And
So I want to say why it's personal to me. It's personal to me, and for a number of reasons. One, I consider the chancellor my chancellor, and two, I am a graduate of Rutgers University, Newark, and that's my home campus.
So am I.
and so
So am I.
oh,
And
you were also
coincidentally,
Zaid, you were also an alumni
Let me tell
of
you
Rutgers
something.
North.
I go back. And you know, Marcia. I can remember when Marcia.
Well, let me introduce Marcia
Let me
first.
just bring her in.
Let me
Right?
introduce Marcia Brown, and then we can go fully into it. So, we are very honored, right, to have as our guest one of the best educators in Newark, and like I would say, one of the best educators in our history. In that she afforded so many opportunities to other people, and she had been work. She is Marcia Brown. She's a former vice chancellor at Rutgers, and was working through Rutgers for many years in many different roles, all of which would help people in the city of Newark, right? Like I the things that she's done as Marcia, who's a trained lawyer who actually rose up through the ranks herself and gave to and continues to give back to the Newark community. If there is a history of education in Newark, they would have to include Marcia Brown for the role that she played in getting access to education for many people within the city of Newark. Thank you, Marcia, for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. And first of all, let me just thank you guys for putting this issue out in front of the community. Ed and Zaid and Jonathan.
All right,
And you guys are.
your sound is a little. Your sound is not good right now. There's like a
Yeah, I
lot
don't
of.
know what's going on. I see there's a lot of there's static, right? Yeah, I don't know what
static
happens,
and
but yeah, I might need to go out, maybe come back again.
yeah, just go out, come back in. If you can go back either on your phone, that might work. But definitely go out and come back in and see if that works.
Okay.
Yeah, Marcia has been a leading educator and a leading figure at Rutgers for over 20 years, and was, I believe, tapped in part by the the current administration to help be that bridge and to help and have a large leadership role under Nancy Cantor. And she did, right? So she has a very unique perspective on the things that Rutgers has done under Nancy Cantor to help Newark in general, right? Like so, like before this, like I'm a teacher, I'm an educator in Newark Public Schools, and I know that with my own students, before the current administration, Rutgers Newark was not necessarily welcoming, right? Like I didn't necessarily get that they wanted or recruited our kids. They saw themselves as a state university, not as a state university with a special obligation to the kids of the city of Newark, right? So a lot of our students went to Rutgers, New Brunswick, because it was not it was more inviting than Rutgers Newark, right? Like in many different ways. It was, I think,
Right.
the active recruiting of Newark kids I saw was
Right.
profoundly different. Marcia, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Yes,
Your sound is
I hear
great.
you. Oh, good. You can hear me now. So that's good.
We can hear you
So
well.
I
We can't
just,
see you, but we can hear you well.
okay. Yeah, I think I'm down here. I'm down here in the good old North Carolina. So um, I don't know if that has something to do with it, but
Yeah, we saw you a minute ago, so now we can't see you, but we hear you perfectly.
Better though.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, you do hear me perfectly?
I do hear
Okay,
you
great.
perfectly.
Okay, great. So, so yeah, so I just wanted to, thank you guys for putting this issue out there for supporting, the idea that, truth must prevail over skin color and false politics and, the inability of people to really parse truth from falsehood, because the reality is that Nancy Cantor's real crime is being committed to the city of Newark.
Now, what do you mean parse truth from falsehood? What's going on out there? What are people saying? What is the pushback?
Right. So first, the facts. Okay, the facts are, as you guys said, Nancy's contract was up. Normally, a president will either renew or not renew, but they'll tell the person, I'm not renewing for this reason. Or the person might say, "Hey, I'm moving on. There are things that I want to do." That's not the case here. I mean, my understanding is that Holloway told her, and I understand that he's also been telling others, or other people on his behalf have been telling others, that the reason that he's not renewing her contract is that she's not on the quote unquote Rutgers team, that she's more dedicated to Newark than she is to Rutgers. Now, if that makes sense to you, then you can explain it to me. That's what we call a conundrum. But the more egregious part is that he publicly said, as you guys indicated, in his praise letter, so much praise, as you said, Jonathan, why would he let her go if she's the next thing best, the next best thing to Wonder Bread? Why wouldn't he keep her? But it's so cleverly written, because what it says is that her service is concluded, and then he proceeds to go on to tell how wonderful he is, the wonderful things that she's done. Very, being very careful to only make sure that those things are only about Newark. So that would give him the cover to say, well, she's not really about the Rutgers mission. She's about Newark, just Newark. So, I mean, that makes no sense. But people were congratulating her as if she made the choice to leave. She didn't make the choice to leave.
That the letter and the way that you're explaining it, it's like, and it brings. Well, I was talking to Ed about this before, about how identity politics kind of works in weird ways, right? Because when you read that letter and it's like, oh, you did all this for Newark, and then it's like, but bye. It's like,
exactly.
Thing about Newark. Like, are you saying that we're not important? Are you saying that mission is not Rutgers' mission? Because that's the way it was before Nancy Cantor. Before Nancy Cantor, it seemed like Rutgers Newark primarily was about the state university.
Right.
And its obligation specifically to educating people in Newark was less.
Right.
Now it seems like she is of the city, like the unit, not her Cantor, but I mean the university, right? Like the university is of Newark. They are partners in Newark. They want you said that something like 60%, like the number of Newark students attended Rutgers Newark.
Yes.
60%.
Yep.
Yes. I mean, we could talk about that in a minute, but we got to understand that Nancy has revolutionized the way that Rutgers, i.e. Rutgers writ large, is dealing with communities that heretofore lacked access to the resources of this institution, even though their parents are taxpayers. So, if you are operating out of a lens of being a victim, then your take is, hey, this is business as usual. Here they go again. I'm shocked. Oh, he can fire anybody you want to. He can hire anybody you want to. You're in the whirlwind of victimization. But if we are operating out of the lens of accountability, which goes beyond the color of your skin and what gender you are,
right,
then when you're a leader, your voice should be effectual, it should be informing, and it should be continuous. President Holloway, let's be clear, he fired Nancy from her position as chancellor. Yes, he has the right to hire and fire his team, no doubt. But he did three things I argue he didn't have the right to do morally and maybe even legally. I mean, first of all, the idea that she's not committed to the one Rutgers vision, what the hell is that? If she's working on building public engagement, working on building access, working on building equality and inclusion and welcoming diversity as a measure of excellence. Why isn't that part of the One Rutgers vision, whatever that is?
Right.
Then he proceeds, which I think is the more egregious thing, to issue a statement that glorifies her achievements, her work with Newark, her exemplary leadership, and then says, oh, but her service is concluded and she's leaving, as if she made the decision to leave. Now, even Ray Charles can see that ain't right. So if she's so compelling in her leadership, vision, and action, why wouldn't he want her? Why wouldn't she be an ideal candidate for his team?
Right.
Right.
That's morally repugnant. And what is the message to young people, to everybody, when a CEO tries to hide or obfuscate the reason? I mean, listen, 10 presidents in the last year or two in higher ed have been fired. Everybody knows the reason. Stanford, the guy's fired for malfeasance. I'm sorry, Yale. Stanford, something about maybe he plagiarized his research. Other presidents, they didn't bring in enough money. They didn't do but you gonna fire her, privately tell her she's not part of your team, don't explain what that means, and then tell the public, but she's wonderful. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that unassailed, unchallenged.
Especially when someone has the full support of the community that they also serve, right? And that's what's so egregious about this. What strikes this as insulting is it seems like the president is actually insulting Newark.
Thank you.
Statement.
Thank you.
I don't know how you could read his statement about what she has done for the institution to serve Newark so well, to be a model for how a university should act within a city, and then be like, or not. No, not you.
The only way you can read it that way is if he's what he's saying is that we don't care about Newark. So what she did for Newark, that's fine, but that don't have nothing to do with our mission.
Right. And which brings us back to what Rutgers Newark was like before Nancy Cantor in terms of its relationship with Newark. It did not recruit Newark students. It was not as actively engaged on a multiplicity of levels in terms of how we can help solve problems within the city. And we have different guests on the show that deal with different areas of the city, right? We have education. We see how she's used there. When we have Keisha Yuri talking about anti-violence on here, she will talk about studies that come out of Rutgers or some help that they're doing or working with Rutgers program. When we talk about housing, you talked about some work that's being done from Rutgers to deal with housing and gentrification. It seems like there's a partner, an academic partner in policy almost across the board when it comes to how Rutgers has shifted over the last few years. And I have not seen that before.
Exactly. I mean, to say that Chancellor Cantor is only concerned about Newark is to say to Brian Strom, the chancellor of the medical school, oh, all you people want to do is treat people medically. That's all you're interested in. I mean, that is insane. She's in Newark. I mean, every campus is part of the Rutgers constellation. But if you don't have the leadership and the skill set to understand that they all bring a unique and particular asset to that constellation, whether it's Camden, whether it's Newark, whether it's the medical school, whatever it is, you ought to be the kind of leader who can mobilize those assets toward a broader view that, listen, all of this is Rutgers. Isn't that beautiful? Right. He can't do that. That's the situation that we find ourselves in with this president. They call him black. To me, that's not the issue here. I'm saying don't fall for the okie doke, because neither biology, race, nor gender determines ideology. And people in Newark know Nancy. They know where she put her voice, her heart, even her money. I could tell you what she's done personally. I just wouldn't do that to embarrass her. But Nancy's commitment to Newark is unassailable. She's an icon, a fierce lioness. And it's not just with Newark. I mean, people know her all over the country, all over the world. Nancy's spoken all over the world. People look for her to give them a sense of what higher education ought to be about in terms of democracy, in terms of equality, and in terms of diversity, as a measure of excellence. And so any president worth their measure, a great president would say, hey, I want you on my team. And I'm happy. If I come into the room and you're a tree and I'm just a stump, it's okay. Because I'm going to benefit from that. But I think ego has a lot to do with it.
So I just want to share something just based on what Marcia is saying in regards to how he, meaning President Holloway, how he praises Nancy, and then he goes into sort of this sort of cycle behavior where he says some other stuff, but he says in my time at Rutgers, I have been inspired by Nancy Cantor's deep commitment to the Rutgers Newark community, energized by her national leadership on issues of social justice, and enlightened by her wise counsel on any number of issues related to the welfare of our university. I'm a little confused.
Right? Exactly.
If you've been enlightened by her wise counsel, and now all of a sudden her counsel is no longer wise to you,
right?
What?
Right. I think this has a lot to do with ego, with insecurity, but also with institutional intrigue. Remember, some people tried to amalgamate the medical school with Rutgers Newark. We got a law school, we got a business school. But if you cannibalize Rutgers Newark, then you get the law school, you get the medical school, you get the business school, and New Brunswick becomes the bright star in the constellation, whereas Rutgers Newark and Camden and all become a community college. Look, Nancy is the tallest tree in the room. But for Nancy, there's no, even though all politics is local, but for Nancy, there's no tuition-free education for Newark students. But for Nancy, there's no run to the top. But for Nancy, there's no Express Newark. But for Nancy, there's no honors college for people of color. But for Nancy, there's no scholarship for dreamers. But for Nancy, there's no Clements Place. No 500 new jobs at Rutgers Newark for Newark residents making a living wage. There, even for dreamers. But for Nancy, there's no award-winning stories on the immigrant movement. No partnerships with the city producing programs and new policies designed to improve the lives of residents on crime, education, housing, economic development, and the arts. No Newark anchor, but for Nancy. And let me tell you, New Brunswick has benefited from that. He can't say she's only concerned about Newark, because we came up with, the future Rutgers Newark. That was us. Now New Brunswick has it. Nancy came up with Run to the Top, which brings students of color and from disadvantaged communities here, gives them enough money so they have no debt. You hear me?
Right.
No debt after they finish college. We gave that to the Rutgers constellation. So what is he talking about? He needs to bring his behind to Newark and talk to the people of Newark and tell them why he fired Nancy, then declared her the heroine of her own political firing. He needs to tell them, well, what the hell is the Rutgers mission? He needs to tell them what is the role of Rutgers Newark in that mission, and how the search process will produce someone of Nancy's caliber. Because if it doesn't, we shouldn't allow that person even into the room.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to slow it down just a little bit, right? You listed off a series of programs, right at this last point, a series of things that were done. I want you to list them and let's talk about them so that people really understand what it is that she's doing and that impact. You ran through a series of programs that were instituted under Nancy Cantor. Let's just take a few of them.
One of the biggest is Run to the Top, right? Run to the Top, just that name. It was Nancy who visualized that, who was Nancy who said, we need to have a runway that not only allows students to be admitted to Rutgers Newark, but to be able to come here and not worry about having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans.
So even before the whole that we got to do something about this debt, and we have too many kids in debt. Like I know people who went to Rutgers Newark before Nancy Cantor, like 1 or 2 years before Nancy Cantor, and have a lot and have or had a lot of debt that it took them years to pay off.
Right. But under Run to the Top, if your family, which is true in Newark, makes, if a household income is under $65,000, you're not gonna pay a dime to go to Rutgers Newark. You have no tuition obligation loans that you will have to pay afterwards. That's huge.
Right.
That's huge. That's Nancy. That's Nancy's vision. And you mentioned earlier in the top of the show that we had a 60% increase in the enrollment of students from Newark. I mean, Mayor Baraka and Nancy worked together on that.
Right.
When Raz came up, which is another item, with the idea of Newark 2020, which was to hire Newark residents and give them a living wage, he challenged the downtown corporate community of Newark and others to hire Newark residents over the next 2 to 3 years and give them jobs at living wages so that we could cut back on the unemployment rate, which at that time was probably about 6%, 8%. And Nancy and Rutgers Newark was one of the highest hiring institutions, even though we're subject to state regulations. We hired almost 500 people. Do you hear me? 500 people in 2 years got jobs at Rutgers Newark making a living wage. Who did Holloway do anything like that? Has Holloway distinguished himself in any way like that? But yet he's going to tell Chancellor Cantor that she's not part of the Rutgers mission?
And what was the higher living and learning community?
That's the Newark, which is another Nancy vision. The Honors College, which is higher. The higher. The name is escaping me, but
the higher living and learning community.
High living and learning, right? So, a lot of students come in here and they can't get into the regular, like the traditional honors college, right? Because of how they define what it means to be an honors student. And I know you know about that, Jonathan, from Science High. But what Nancy did was to turn that whole concept upside down and said honors is not just about GPA. It's also about what you bring to a classroom from your experience, from your viewpoints and vision. And so she created a whole new college for students to be able to apply to, and they've come from all over the world. It's not just from Newark.
Right. And the cool thing about the college, I'm as you know, I'm a debate coach, and in the year right before it opened, yourself, there's a series of vice chancellors, like Nancy Cantor, basically told them to get people in the room, and my debaters were recruited like they were football players to the new college, right? Because they really valued the debate experience that came from Newark, right? They valued, because that whole mission was looking at it like, hey, these are very talented students that exhibit themselves in ways from Newark, that exhibited themselves in a way in terms of debate. In their college, it's a social justice honors college,
right,
where they work with people from elected officials, activists, so that they can get into how to solve the problems of our communities. That was her vision for the honors college, which I'm like, she has an honors college that's based on social justice, involvement in the community, doing community programs, working with problem solvers in the city to get better at it. That's some of the best town gown relationships that I've heard of, just in doing that.
Because that's all part of her vision of public engagement. For Nancy Cantor, the question is, what is it that higher ed owes the communities in which it resides? That's
Right.
that's her fundamental question. That's not the traditional question of higher ed,
Right.
which is a lot more narrow and a lot more meritocracy. But for Nancy, it's spreading democracy. It's how many of these young people can we get in here, bring all their talent, all their assets, and make this university a better place?
Right.
And so if you're not the kind of president, he should be on trial, not Nancy. If you're not the kind of president where you can appreciate that kind of commitment to public engagement, which is the situation that we find ourselves in with this president who's trying to create a false divide.
Now you say trying to create a false divide. Explain.
If on two levels, one between Newark and quote unquote workers. I mean, what is that divide?
Right.
Why is it that there's a problem that he says that he doesn't think that she's committed to the Rutgers mission, but only to Newark? What the heck does that mean? What is the divide here?
Committed to Newark, that would be a part of the Rutgers mission.
Exactly, but he never said that.
Drawing people in and using the university as a part of the community, right? Like, why is that antithetical to what he thinks Rutgers should be?
Exactly, and that's the question that he has to be asked. As Ed was saying, his whole statement praising Nancy only talked about Newark. He never said, and this is good for Rutgers. He never said that. Yeah, so in other words, he's like, yeah, she did that for Newark. That's cool. The people in Newark love that, da-da-da-da-da. But that ain't Rutgers Newark. That's not Rutgers. Wow. That's what it'll appear to be. But until we bring him up for an examination, you're not going to know. We shouldn't presume to say this is what he feels. He needs to tell the people of Newark. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Well, what the hell do you mean? Why isn't she somebody that you would value for the Rutgers mission? Why isn't she? He needs to face the people of this community and hear their questions and their truths.
That's right.
Because everybody is telling him how great Nancy is, and he's not acknowledging that. He's saying, yeah, she's great. So, but he needs to answer the question. We can't get caught up in that false divide either between Rutgers and Newark or between he's a black president and she's a white woman. We can't get caught up into those dynamics.
That's been happening in terms
of the background, yeah. I mean, it's not in the articles, right? But yeah, it's creeping out there.
Because that's ridiculous.
People are saying that.
Like when people are playing identity politics and talking about race, but not talking about what you're doing for black people, right? What are you doing for black people? For because I don't see it because during the strike there were lots of disproportionately people of color during the strike that you wanted to put in jail.
Exactly. He didn't like it.
Jail, man.
He did not like it. Yeah. Yeah.
But we had some of the strikers on that were getting paid like what? It's like $5 a student for the semester, right? Like they were being paid so little it was laughable. And he wanted to put them in jail for striking. And these were black and brown people within the university that were disproportionately struggling because if you're wealthy and white, you don't need as much. You might not need to strike. But the grad students and the people who are working there who went on strike needed to go on strike to basically, because they couldn't be in school otherwise, right? They were being mistreated. And on the other side was the person who wants to be seen as a brother? Really? Is that what we're doing now?
So I touch and agree because, this is the divide is really between values. Your value to have an institution that's based on rankings and our value to have an institution that's based on democracy,
right,
and justice, and yes, and inclusion. Exactly. So that's if there's a divide, if there's a struggle, that's what the struggle is, and we need to say to him, we need to uncloak that. We need to say, you're not going to get away with trying to treat us like we're idiots,
right?
You love her, she's great, she's this and that. But you don't have nothing to say about how what she's been trying to do in Newark relates to the Rutgers mission. And they're going to fire her on top of it?
So
and then underneath
so
trying to play racial politics without helping the people by hurting the people that you claim to represent.
Right, because if he searches for somebody, he already said in his letter, right? It'd be hard to find somebody who could bring in what Nancy did. Right. So who's he gonna bring in? He can only bring in somebody who will follow his dictates. Right. And then what does that mean for Rutgers Newark?
What does it mean for Race to the Top?
Or Rutgers dictates if Rutgers dictates are shifting.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, folks can't fall for the okie doke. Our voices have to be heard out there. He's very clever. I'll give it to him. Because the politicians, the governor included, they're going to say, oh, we're not going to interfere with this. This is a personnel decision. Oh, okay. It's a personnel decision. But what about rightness? What about justice? What about how you do things? If he's morally repugnant in the way he did this, what is the message to our young people? They can lie too?
Now, who has the power to stop this decision?
The board. And that's where we have to embarrass this board into action. I don't know, but I don't believe that the whole board knew. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I don't believe that the whole board knew that this is what he was going to do. But the chair of the board, another so-called black man, had to know about it. I mean, these are the kind of conspiracies that they make TV shows about, right? Mm. So, but the board hired the president. So they need to be the ones to hear these comments. Now, they may, we've been to hearings before. We've seen how people just sit there and listen to you and suffer your comments and then go on and do what they're going to do.
Right.
They may do this here. I don't know. But the point is, they shouldn't be allowed to do it without our voices being heard. And the first thing we need to demand that man bring his behind to Newark and face the people of Newark. And then we need to send letters and comments to that board. I mean, I will be the first one speaking, or one of the first ones on October 5th when the board.
So really, on October 5th, where is there?
The board will be meeting, and interestingly enough, which I feel is, like this was, a helping hand from the universe. This meeting is going to be in Newark.
Oh wow!
At Robeson.
Oh wow!
October 5th. So we want to get as many people to sign up for that meeting to be there as possible. Even if they all can't speak, we need to have the room full of people who will come and speak truth to power.
Now, also, does the governor have any influence over this?
Well, arguably, Rutgers is a public university, and in most states, a decision like this would not have been made without consultation. Everything I'm hearing, everything I'm getting from my sources who are impeccable are that he didn't know about it. But now he knows because it's out there in the universe. Now, whether he would, he's not, I don't know what he's going to do, really. People have been calling for a reversal of the governor's decision. My understanding is that he has dug his heels in. He will not change. He's planning on going to the search process sooner than later. Because remember he did this when all the students were away, when the faculty is away. They won't be back until after September. He knew. He probably banked on the fact that, time would, end this. Because people would be gone by the time they came back, it's over. He's got a search process going, can't do anything, whatever. The governor didn't like what he did with the strike, but they let him do it. I think that there is a concerted, view that this is the first black president. He's on his honeymoon. We're not going to step into this. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't. They just maybe won't.
And it's interesting because it's like he's actually undermining black interests, right?
Jonathan, let me just interject just based on that. So Marcia, you do know that the governor would not be governor if it were not for Newark, right? You
Right.
know.
Right. Absolutely.
So if Newark rises up and clearly we plan to do that on October 5th, and we say to
Mm-hmm.
this governor, you would not be governor had not it been for us. And here's what we're asking you. We're asking you to have that firing that has been issued by this guy named Holloway, who is not a goddamn friend of ours, right? To have that rescinded, and that's how you pay us back, right? Because politics is quid pro quo, right?
Right. Right.
So that's what we want. What we want is to have that. Now we could go a step further and say, well, what we really want is for you to move his ass out. How about that? Right?
Listen. I give it to Mayor Baraka, who had when we talked to him and when he agreed to write the president. He could have just stood in the background. They did the merger with the medical school. It all sounds wonderful, but the mayor said this ain't right. Nancy is a super partner. She's done more for Newark than many others who don't look like her.
Right.
And he put it out there. He put the word out there. And I think he had the kind of courage to do that. He didn't care whether it was the governor or Holloway. And so we need people to follow in his footsteps.
That's leadership.
Right.
That's leadership. When I was talking, with the mayor, one of the things I said was that, a lot of times we can't handle not being the smartest person in the room. But let me tell you, if I'm the governor or if I'm a leader, I want the smartest people on my team. I want the people who are going to say, Marcia, we don't need to go that way. And let me tell you why. Here's some things you need to think about. Why am I going to get upset about that? If I'm genuine, if I'm genuinely interested in our mission to make life better for people, why would I get mad because somebody in the room is smarter than me? And the mayor said, you're right. That's exactly right. So we have got to become smarter, deeper, more mature in our understanding of what makes a leader. And then hold them accountable, not because of the color of their skin, not because of their gender, not because of where they come from, not because of how well they talk, not because they're what's called an influencer. No.
It's right now it's just about what's material, right?
Right,
Like
right.
like the if Nancy had not done material things, if Chancellor Cantor had not done material things to help Newark and multiple levels, if kids were not given scholarships, if she hadn't increased the number of Newark residents going there by 60%, right? She had not instituted actual programs that are committed to social justice and training kids and how to do that and getting them mentorships. Like if she had not encouraged the different institutions to partner with the city, right? The hiring that she hired people at living wages, whereas the president wanted to jail people for going on strike for making far less than the minimum wage. Like
Right.
we had those people strikers coming on. It was not even it was like $5 a semester. It was like bad. It was so low in terms of what they were paid because they have a tradition of only people in grad school being people who are supported by their parents.
Right.
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 So,
Right.
so Marcia, I know we're nearing the end of this segment. Can you tell us anything else that we need to know?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me on. I love all of you guys. And I like to stay in the background, but y'all always forcing me to come on out and put my voice out there, get myself into trouble. But let me just say that we need to continue to be an exemplar to our young people, to our children, so that they understand what are the important coordinates for their lives as they navigate through the various decisions that they have to make, how to live. And I think, what Nancy's situation encourages us to remember, because even Nancy says it's not about her, it's about, the mission, is to remember what Martin Luther King said to us. He said, in the end, right, what we will remember is not the words of our enemy, but the silence of our friends.
That's right.
And so if we allow this president to do what he's doing, it is not just about Nancy. It's about this community and the cannibalization of an institution that she, as well as her predecessors, worked to make accountable to the needs of the community, the need for it to be freed from those things that victimize it, freed from those things that prevent it from, knowing and developing into its fullest assets. And that's what she has tried to do in Newark. And those of us I was proud to have worked with her, to have been there with her while she, provided us with this vision to give our lives to. And we ought not to let it be treated so lightly and so cavalierly and so repugnantly as to let an outsider come in and tell us what to do with our community.
Thank you, Marcia. And we appreciate you always, right? You are always our vice chancellor, right? And so thank you again.
Thank you
also,
for having me. Thank you guys for keeping the people's voice out there. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And Marcia, John Lewis would call this good trouble, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good trouble. Yeah, Nancy talks about that too. Good trouble. Yeah,
He would call this good trouble.
So last question though, who you listening to? Any hip hop that you've listened to? What's the music? I know.
Now y'all know I'm old. Y'all know I don't know all none of this stuff. I'm still back there with
Marcia, I was doing jazz when I was at Rutgers.
I know. I'm like I couldn't even. My grandchildren are just like, Grandma, don't even try it. Okay, just lay low. We know I'm still in the Motown era. Like the Temptations. But I'm with Marvin Gaye. What's going on? Okay, right. Let's what's going on? So let's talk about that to the people.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
All right, Marcia.
All right. Bye now.
All right. So that is another segment of All Politics Are Local. We are getting ready to go into our next segment. But before that, I just want to say, Marcia Brown, I've known Marcia Brown since I was a kid. She's been helping out with the Institution of Debate in Newark since I was a kid. And that's why I say, she's one of those best those administrators who really make so many different educational programs better. And also she helped with All Politics Are Local when we were based at Rutgers in terms of making sure that we got off the ground in a very positive way. So Marcia's always there, and Marcia's always been on point. So much appreciated.
Yeah,
before you go to the next guest, Zaid, I want to get your impression on it because you are an alumni as well.
Right.
Well, let me say two things. One, when Jonathan was a kid trying to figure out who Marcia was, I wasn't a kid, right? And I remember when she came to Newark from Detroit, I met Marcia Brown. We were doing a poetry reading together, and she was the first one to bring to life the great poem that is known as "A Place I Never Been" by Luis Reyes Rivera, which is a definitive poem on Malcolm's assassination. Right. And right after that, we would find ourselves together in a group called the Newark Writers Collective. This is the early 80s, grimy Reagan, rotten behind 80s, right? And she was just getting ready to go to law school. Right?
Okay.
She was just getting ready to go to law school. And we kind of didn't want to see her go. But one of the things that I did around that time, and this is when Marcia and Sandra West, who also had Rutgers Newark ties, right? I called for the Newark Writers Collective to host the first book party in the country for Asada. Negroes were scared, right? Not Marcia, not Sandra. They came with me and we did that. Okay. So Marcia ain't just ain't no Rutgers friend. Marcia is a comrade to me. Right. She's a comrade in struggle. Right. And when she went through those paces, went to law school, became a player inside the Rutgers apparatus after she got out of law school and ultimately, aligned and got with Chancellor Canton, and wound up becoming Vice Chancellor Canton, being true to her community mission and bearing from the very beginnings. I won't say that about her, right? Now, when you start going down the list of what Nancy was doing, right? When I first started seeing what she was doing, right, I said, we have been having these arguments with Rutgers behinds for decades. I was at Rutgers Newark in the late 70s, early 80s, Black organization of students. It was still a community campus. White folks thought they owned it during the day and they would be out between 3 and 5, completely out of Newark. No connection to the community whatsoever. We always fought them tooth and nail over how backwards that was. When Nancy came in with those programs and had Marcia, with her implementing those programs, those of us who go back that far, we said, it's about damn time somebody's finally listening. Now bring it back to all politics are local. One of the now I was trying to get in the radio when I was at Rutgers Newark, okay? And one of the arguments that I personally had with the university, I said, why are we not going further with our broadcast capacity in radio, television, and theater when we're 20 minutes away from New York City? Seton Hall has got an FM radio station with world-class respect right next to WBGO. We're 5 minutes from WBGO. It is absolutely backwards. And so what should have happened, the piece that was unfinished that Nancy represented and that Marcia represented, is that they should have built on our presence as all politics are local and improved and upgraded their relationship to develop and share on the whole notion of media development and education as a part of that whole argument that ain't never stopped. Now, why is this overall thing is important and needs to be appreciated is this. We talked about the whole question of the attack on Black studies. The attack on Black studies doesn't happen in a vacuum. The attack on women's rights doesn't happen in a vacuum. The attack on labor rights and the right to a living wage doesn't happen on a vacuum. Those are things that are distractions in some very real respects to look at a shift to the right that has nothing necessarily to do with race, but that re-shrinking of resources, running them to the top, right? Minimizing resources and the capacity for people to make living wages at the bottom and the continued widening of the bottom, the kind of thing that we saw in the last Bush days, right? That led to that recession, that included how people were losing homes, losing mortgages, losing jobs, how the economy for the average person was shrinking, how opportunities were shrinking, how chances to go to higher education were shrinking, right? So some folks were very comfortable with that agenda. And that agenda is not at all to be disconnected from these other battles that we are talking about, like I just listed with the whole attack on Black studies, women's rights, voting rights. It's all linked. And the fact that this state is willing to use polished color tools to use this, should not confuse us in any way, shape, or form. The resistance, the statements that our local folks made was important. The statements that local faculty made is important. That's a very diverse, expression of faculty. It wasn't just Black faculty, or it was across disciplines, across nationalities, right? Just on a broader mission of that. We're in the largest city in the state, and we have this profile that we have developed by virtue of engaging that population. How is that hurting us?
Right.
Anything, we should be building on it and it's the kind of thing that has model dimensions if you're willing to be about real development and real inclusion.
But you know what was interesting, John, is that Marcia was not holding back any punches, man. Did you notice that?
No, she
You know,
wasn't.
she was using the terms that, and because in my mind, I'm like, well, it sort of sounds like what she's saying to us is let's call this guy Jonathan Holloway to the table and let's have a black conversation with this guy, right? Does he really give a damn about black people in the city of Newark?
Right.
Or is he a hitman?
Huh?
Or is he a hitman for the 1%?
Right. Right.
And you know by what they do.
We know what they look like.
Right.
And we know by what they do.
Yeah. Because what Marcia was saying is that he basically fired her, right, for giving a damn about young people in the city of Newark.
Right.
And because the term she used, she was not a part of this One Rutgers vision, right? So the One Rutgers vision does not include poor children in the city of Newark having an opportunity to go to
Rutgers, Camden, or Rutgers, New Brunswick. You know, Rutgers, New Brunswick has never invested in the New Brunswick black and brown community.
Right.
Never. You know, so you
And
know,
so
what is one? Yeah.
And so what that sounds like, Zaid, is that those other anchor institutions should have been following what the hell was going on in Newark.
Right.
Actually, it looks like Camden did more than New Brunswick did, right? So the question is this going to continue, or is this a new return to that old backwards notion of we're going to carry ourselves like an elite university and institution the way we once did many years ago, and Rutgers did do that many years ago. I mean, we look about we talk about the Robeson Center, we talk about Paul Robeson at Rutgers, right?
Right.
In his day, right, and my grandfather graduated right behind Paul Robeson. There's only like 3 of them in the whole damn school, right? Rutgers was considered an elite institution, and there's an elite, ownership, if you will, by its ingrained leadership that goes back to those values, right? those values of privilege and exclusivity, as opposed to values of inclusion and democracy and broader community engagement.
But we do have our guests from the next segment who are backstage. So I do want to bring them forward because we are running a little bit late. But we're going to come back to this over and over again because this is probably going to be one of the most important issues in Newark in the next few months. Because when you're talking about increasing college enrollment of Newark students by 60%, that's a real help to the city, right? Yeah. When you're talking about kids not going into debt, those are some real helps to the city. So we're going to be coming back to
this. Jonathan, but not only that, Jonathan, it has generational value.
Right.
Damn right.
Generational value.
Yeah, I can't tell my daughter who's contemplating where she wants to go to school that she ought to consider Rutgers Newark just behind this bullshit.
Right.
She would look at me like I'm out of my mind.
But John, we're going to promote October 5th. We're going to promote that heavy.
And we probably should do our own letter too.
Right. We're going to promote it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get, we're going to do a lot of work around this because we want that room packed out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's put our guests on. Chris, Bashir, are you there?
Hotep. Can everybody see me?
I can't see you yet.
We don't see you yet.
All right, let me start.
Hey, Bashir, you're too black and too strong, brother.
Just you can go out and come back in.
Yeah, let me go out and come back in.
That is, Marcia was having a similar problem not long ago. Hey, man, Chris, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
What's up, Chris? Good to see you, brother.
Peace. It's good having you back. Zaid, want to do that? Do you want to give him that introduction?
Well, this is and I want to do this in several parts. I don't want this to be a one and done conversation tonight. Cuba is the incredible place that it is. It's been in the news on a number of fronts with a number of issues in recent years. And Chris is someone who has just come back from Cuba recently with the Venceremos Brigade, and literally a North American solidarity organization that literally grew up with the Cuban Revolution. Bashir, one of our founding producers, Bashir Muhammad Fatah Akindele, just came back from Cuba on his own volition for education reasons. I came back for the first time in some 31 years, and we all do what we have done in a place of principled solidarity with Cuba. Just like we just lifted up, we had this hot session we just had, basically in solidarity with Nancy Cantor and with appreciation for the contributions that she gave to this community at Rutgers Newark. Cuba is going through a very difficult time, and not alone, but as a consequence of the influence, the undue imperialistic influence of the United States as an empire, using its influence through blockades to strangle its economy and the economies of other countries with a similar degree of value orientation, as in the people of Venezuela, for instance, who are also seeking a socialist path to development. And by virtue of recent developments and the extent of how this particular blockade has been strengthened by both Trump and Biden, right? We have seen, Cubans facing some difficulties that have gone beyond what they have faced in previous years. The blockade of Cuba is 61 years old, as old as Ed Riley, right? And it's one of the most backwards expressions of the empire or the imperialist dimensions of the U.S. government as a superpower in the world, and that the world has condemned overwhelmingly for decades.
Teach,
The United States is absolutely isolated in international opinion by virtue of the wrongness of its blockade of Cuba. So these young men are not just here. They weren't tourists, right? I ain't never been a tourist or nothing, nowhere, because I don't have the time and money for none of that, right? But right. But this conversation about their recent trips comes up in the context of solidarity with Cuba. And why is solidarity? Because what Cuba has done for the world, Cuba developed to put doctors in 40 different countries, develop their own vaccine, even while their medical infrastructure, which is one of the most legendary and the most generous in the world, was being strangled, and was able to save lives, not just on their island nation, but in all those nations that they touched, including some nations in the Northern Hemisphere, like Italy, right? So, and just recently we had, she's not on, she was supposed to be on, a dear friend and comrade of mine, Gail Walker, who leads delegations to Cuba, right, was arrested at the office of one Senator Bob Menendez, simply seeking a meeting with him and his team about the differences of opinion about his control over the issue of what U.S. policy is supposed to be towards Cuba, that his community has dominated with exclusive authority for decades, when New Jersey no longer looks like that kind of thinking. So there's a lot to talk about. Chris, you just came back from the Venceremos Brigade. Bashir, you did an education trip, right? Bashir, we haven't had you on in a minute. Why don't you start, Bashir, and then Chris, I want you to come in and tell your story about your trip. But Chris, I also want you to lift up the work of the brigade as you do it.
Hotep, Hotep, Hotep. It's an honor and a privilege to be on the number one political hip hop radio show in America and in the world. So, you know, I'm so honored to be invited on the show, family. Hotep, Uncle Justin Ebb. Hotep is an African. If you don't know what that means, is an African Kemetic Egyptian Medu word for peace. All right. Some scholars say it's the oldest written word for peace in human history.
That's right.
Uncle Justin Ebb is an African Kemetic Egyptian phrase that means life, prosperity, and health. All right. So again, Hotep, Uncle Justin Ebb. I thought you was gonna go before the elders, brother.
You the elder in this one. Get used to it because it's coming.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. But yeah, brothers and sisters, I went on. Let me get my notes together. I went on an educational tour of Cuba. It was amazing. And big shout out to Letty's Cuba. I was able to go to Cuba through Letty's Cuba travel agency. It was real supportive, real professional. They covered all the bases in terms of the paperwork I needed, right, to get to Cuba. So big shout out to Letty's Cuba, man, for real. Big shout out. Yeah, brothers and sisters. My I went there for about 6 days. About 6 days. All right. 6 days. Day one in Cuba was amazing. All right. Right away, I'm telling y'all, right away, I did not feel the racial. I'm gonna say this again: the racial pressures from white supremacy and racism. All right. And sometimes you need to get away from the Western world to clear your conscious mind from the deadly grind of racial and class oppression that you face in countries like America. So, but I didn't feel that when I went to Cuba. I mean, right away, it was just amazing. Like all that kind of withered away when I got to Havana. And by the way, I had a direct flight from Newark, New Jersey, Brick City to Havana, or as our Cuban brothers and sisters would say, Havana. All right. Direct flight round trip, right? United Airlines provides direct flights, round trip direct flights from Newark, New Jersey to Cuba. A lot of people don't even know that. Many people think that you got to fly through Florida or Canada or some other place. No, there are direct flights from Newark, New Jersey, Brick City to Havana, Cuba. All right. And, you know, the Cuban people, the people were warm and friendly. But the first thing I noticed in Havana is the masses of Black people. Masses of Black people everywhere, right? In Cuba, right? The majority of Cuba's population Afro-Latinos. You know, I have seen many brothers and sisters that are, I saw many brothers and sisters, and, you know, many brothers and sisters like me there in Cuba, right? And speaking of Black people, there were many Africans and African Americans participating in Cuba's cultural and medical exchange programs there. All right. After I flew into Jose Marti Airport, my guide took me to various towns in Cuba that led up to the city of Havana. And Brother Marti is considered Cuba's national hero because of his role in the liberation of his country from Spain. All right. We toured towns of Maria now. Hope now my Spanish is not that good, brothers and sisters, so just kind of bear with me, all right? Maria now and Vadado, all right? I stopped by the cemetery of Cologne. Cemetery of Cologne is one of the largest cemeteries in in Latin America. All right. But my tour, but the tour highlight, right, was Plaza de Revolucion, Revolutionary Square, the large area. This is a large area of land, brothers and sisters, large area of land located in the city of Havana. Every year on May 1st, the Cuban people will celebrate Solidarity Day. Millions of people from all over the world flock to Revolutionary Square to pay homage to people's unity. All right. All right. So it was very powerful trip. Um, I don't want to hog the mic, brothers and sisters. I mean, there's so many things I want to say, but I want to hear from my brother Chris. All right. So I'll pass the mic.
You're on mute. Oh, Zaid. Oh, all right.
So come on in, Chris. Come on in. He passed the mic to you. Come on in.
Yeah, peace, everybody. Thank you for that, Bashir, and also want to acknowledge that Bashir and Baba Zaid have been longtime mentors to me, personally. So just want to give acknowledgement to that. Actually, Baba Zaid was. I'm pretty sure you're the person that told me to go on the Venceremos Brigade when I first expressed interest in going to Cuba. And I see why. The Venceremos Brigade is the oldest solidarity project with Cuba, actually pretty much of any country in the world. And this time when we went down to Cuba, and the last time we went during a brigade trip, it was in the eastern part of the island, which is majority Afro-Cuban, and we stayed in the city of primarily in the city of Santiago. And there, for people who aren't aware of Cuban history, the July 26th attack on the Moncada barracks, which symbolized the pretty much the start of the movement that eventually brought down the U.S.-backed dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista, and was led by Fidel Castro. Took place there, and it took place. The commemoration of that attack on the military barracks took place while we were there in Santiago, and so we were able to, be a part of, be there for the commemoration of that very special.
And you were there for the 70th anniversary commemoration.
Yeah, and we were also joined by delegations from all across Latin America and the Caribbean and across the world who also came to visit. We had delegations from Guadeloupe, Martinique, Belize, Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, which was there.
And why is that important, Chris? Let's lift up
Puerto Rico, aside from having more military bases than any country in Latin America.
Not just Puerto Rico, all of those countries.
Yeah.
That's solidarity. Why is that important?
Well, because there's a somewhat of a shared history with the Cuban Revolution for countries across Latin America and the Caribbean. Cuba has given much in terms of solidarity to these countries, whether it be through aid, as you referenced before, medical aid. A lot of the medical systems in these countries are trained by Cuban doctors. Puerto Rico has been given, aid even while, under pretty much the boot of the U.S. empire, where they're, still a colony to this day, an outright colony of the United States. Chile, is a country that my family is from, and Cuba gave aid to them during a time when they were combating U.S. imperialism. And also, talking about anniversaries, on September 11th, this upcoming September 11th is the 50th anniversary of the U.S.-backed military coup in Chile that overthrew the socialist government there, which was
Salvador Allende, the other 911. That's right.
Yeah. So we, we were able to, meet with a lot of these delegations. We were able to, take part in these ceremonies. We were able to, really see, the solidarity from across the world on full display in Cuba, which was very, special. And also, be able to see, the living history of the revolution. This time and also last time we met people who were called combatants of the revolution. There's a big thing of talking about veterans of the movement. but in Cuba, they don't call the people who fought, in the revolution in 1959 veterans. They call them combatants, because they're still, and they they themselves say that they'll be the first ones to pick up a weapon and be on the front line if they're ever called up
Mhm.
to perform any task.
Some of our elder comrades from the BLA would say the same thing. Go ahead, keep going.
Absolutely. So we got to meet and spend time with them. And also, you brought up Gail Walker. Gail Walker and her delegation from IFCO Pastors for Peace was also visiting there at that same time, and they had a pretty large delegation visiting. Um, and I wish that she was on here to speak to that, but they
We're
also
gonna
have
get
a
back
very long
on. We're
history
gonna
of
get her on.
solidarity in Cuba.
We're gonna get her on.
Yeah, so they also came back from the visiting Cuba around July 26th.
So now so what would both of you say now about some of the things that we probably need to be talking about in connection, one, with educating our own community about Cuba, and also about how do we demonstrate solidarity for Cuba now as it is bearing these uh, totally unfair and backwards hostilities and difficulties. And again, this is where America gets bipartisan when it comes to the empire, right? Democrats and Republicans alike, will continue the heavy footedness of Monroe Doctrine, uh, uh, imperialistic diplomacy to isolate and try to strangle Cuba. But Cuba has been incredibly resilient, notwithstanding. What would y'all say about? So what would y'all be? What should we be saying to our community now at this difficult hour in support of and in defense of Cuba? And I want both of you to answer.
Okay. I'll go ahead, brother Chris. I'm gonna let you speak again before me. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. So, I mean, two of the main demands, and I forgot to run this down, but also the Venceremos Brigade, is an organization that has been dedicated to solidarity with the Cuban Revolution and, promoting free travel, by U.S. citizens and the ability to learn about the Cuban Revolution. But also among its demands are the closing of the illegally occupied naval base that the U.S. holds at Guantanamo, and the ending of all sanctions and the blockade against Cuba, which does heavy damage to their society, to their economy, and also removing Cuba from the state-sponsored terrorist watch list, which Cuba was placed on, not too long ago. And like you said, this is stuff. These are policies that the U.S. Again, the blockade was started by a Democrat, um, by John F. Kennedy, and then all of the terrorist actions that the U.S. did commit against Cuba, including during the literacy campaign, killing people who volunteered to go teach in the countryside in Cuba, sponsored by the United States. It happened under Democrats. The Helms-Burton Act happened under Bill Clinton. Bob Menendez, one of the strongest advocates of sanctions, not just on Cuba, but on several other countries where the U.S. is not allowed to own the majority of businesses. He is a Democrat and the senator of New Jersey. And removing Cuba from the state-sponsored terror is, very crucial, especially as the United States likes to speak on a war on terror, against the world. And so I think that these are the kinds of policies and the kind of politics, in terms of an internationalist lens, that we have to bring back to wherever we organize at, locally.
Absolutely, absolutely. I echo all that, all that Chris said. The embargo must end. All right. I just think it's absurd that there is an embargo between the U.S. and Cuba. All right. Um, I just wanted to say this, Baba Zai, if I could. All right, about Cuba. All right. You know, um, Cuba taught me that my Cuban experience, man, was just, again, it was just amazing. It was just mind blowing. Um, and I encourage many brothers and sisters to go to Cuba. All right. Um, I mean, it's just incredible. All right. And I just want to just say a few things what I witnessed in Cuba. All right. Crime and senseless violence. Right. Crime and senseless community violence was almost doesn't exist. That's deep. You know. Um, Although America is the most industrialized, advanced country in the world, the contradictions are blatantly clear. First, race is the primary problem in the United States. If you are white or close to light or close to white, you are looked at as being part of a privileged racial class. However, if you are black or dark or far from white, you are looked at as the rejected racial class. In America, whiteness is extolled as superior. Therefore, every culture that comes to America is orientated into this racial program. This is why education in America must be centered on. This is why education in America must be centered on ethnocentrism. In the U.S., the inclusion of Black history into America's school system is whitewashed. The white power structure does not want our history, all right, to educate the masses on Black people's contribution to human society, because then all cultures begin to see people of African descent as a respected people. All right. As a result of this madness, the U.S. banks on racial and class divisions to keep us disunited, all in the effort to never solve the lingering issues of equality, poverty, and reparations for its people of African descent. It is interesting that America has the best upgrades in its infrastructure in the world, such as government buildings, roads, uh, waste management, sanitation, electricity, internet systems, schools, right? However, many people in America don't care about a collective struggle to respect humanity. Many people in America are greatly individualistic, and the individualistic consciousness has its roots in the worst of European culture. And it rears its ugly head every day in the US to undermine the good things that take place in America. All right. And I want to go on. I want to just say this as well. In order to survive as a country, we must divorce America from its narrow traditions of Western culture to form a better, more perfect union for all cultures of humanity. And I'm saying all this as I compare it to Cuba. And I was only there for a week, um, but I've seen the people in Cuba struggle past these things. They struggle together to have a collective uh, to respect humanity. They struggle together as a people to respect humanity. All right, to work together to solve you know problems, and they do have problems in Cuba, like every other country in the world. But they work together collectively. They may not have the upgrades that America has, new buildings and new roads, internet systems. But again, there's a collective struggle, right, to move past racial issues, class issues, you know, to work together as a people, right, to honor humanity, right. Um, and another thing, Baba Zaid, what I witnessed in the country is African culture is everywhere. It's interwoven into the country. And yes, you do have freedom of religion. A lot of people think that Cuba doesn't support freedom of religion, which is not true. All right. Um, you can practice Christianity, you can practice Islam, you can practice whatever religion you want. All right. But African culture, which was brought over, through slavery, right? Um, African faith traditions that were brought over from Africa, from places that we now call Nigeria, right? Cameroon, right? The Yoruba faith tradition is interwoven in the culture as well, and it played a big part in the struggle against the resistance to slavery and during the revolution. But you see it everywhere. It's all in the country, and the people embrace it as a natural thing. You know, they had a Babalu in the market square, Baba Zahid. Can you believe that, brother? Imagine
Mhm.
that in America, a Babalu in Willowbrook Mall, right? Folk will be looking at that thing like they were looking at the Babalu as if he's promoting, Buddhism or Satanism or some evil religion. You know what I'm saying? But they had a Babalu right there in the market square, right? Where you can
let's look at that
Yeah.
from a long lens of history, because people do not realize that
Mm.
that most of our ancestors brought to the Western Hemisphere
Mm.
were brought south of the United States.
Right.
Right. Cuba is the next to last country
Mm.
to import our ancestors directly from Africa.
Yes.
And didn't end their notion of slavery until 1884.
Whew.
Almost a generation after the American Civil War.
Mm.
But by virtue of their having had a democratic socialist revolution, they have demonstrated the capacity to address a violent settler colonial racist legacy in a way that is exemplary, that makes the United States up north look ridiculous, and just due south in Brazil. Brazil has only had a few minutes of any kind of meaningful experiments with democracy or socialism, where they finally got rid of that fool that was running around with Trump. Right, but Brazil has a long fascist legacy that is directly related and linked to their organic relationship with the slave trade that did not end until 1888. Those two countries in the West demonstrate what racism looks like in the world, anti-Black racism looks like in the world, and has always looked like at its worst, even until this day. Meanwhile, in the middle, somewhere in the middle, in that little country 90 miles off Florida, this country, the size of New York City,
right,
is embarrassing both of them.
Absolutely. Cuba's raising those contradictions heavy, heavy, and you see it right away. It's not something that, you gotta look under a rock, you gotta look under a rock for. You see it right away. You see it right away, man. That's why I'm encouraging brothers and sisters, to
go see it for themselves.
Go see it when I'm telling you, once you see it, you're gonna be amazed. All right, you're gonna be amazed that at a country that that's still committed, collectively committed, right, to equality, all right, to freedom, to self-determination, all right. It is incredible, brothers and sisters. It's incredible, and the struggle past a class, past class issues. I mean, it is amazing. It is amazing to have witnessed that, brothers and sisters. It is amazing to have witnessed that. And so again, when you hold Cuba up to America, you see these contradictions. I'm telling you, with all the wealth, I mean, brother, all that we see here in the United States, I'm talking about new roads and schools and internet, right? A lot of things that Cuba is still struggling with, right? And most of it is due to embargo, no doubt. But they have internal struggles as well. But, you see a collective effort. I mean, a collective effort to struggle past those issues and respect humanity. I mean, respect humanity, Baba Zaid. I mean, I walked around with like a G in my pocket. I lived with the people. I didn't stay in a 5-star hotel. I stayed in an apartment in the hood, right? In an Airbnb. I had a 1-bedroom apartment. And when my educational tour for the day was over, I had some time to myself, and I would just walk the neighborhood. And I never got into a situation where I felt threatened, where my life felt threatened. I felt like I was going to get robbed or killed and anything like that. The people greeted me every day, hola, and and many brothers and sisters that can speak English, by the way. They can speak English, they can speak Spanish, right? Some brothers and sisters I met even speak Russian. You know, they can speak Russian fluently, right? But I never felt threatened. My life never felt threatened. Like I said, I lived in the hood. I lived amongst the people, man. There was an older woman that I took a picture of. She reminded me so much of my grandmother. She didn't speak English. She only spoke Spanish. I didn't, of course, I don't, I don't speak Spanish. But I took a picture because she every day her job at the building was to lock the door, cut the little light on at night, right? And in the morning she would cut the light off and unlock the door. I took a picture of her, man. She reminded me of my grandmother so much, man. Vivian Kelly. It's amazing, brother. It is amazing the connections, Baba Zaid, the cultural connections that you see, the cultural heritage and connections that you see in Cuba is just it's I mean, brother, it's mind blowing. Many times I teared up, seeing all of that, experiencing that. I mean, going to places. I mean, I went to restaurants. They treated me. I get the best tables in the. I went to a musical about the creation of the Afro mulatto. Amazing, amazing musical play. It was actually at a 5-star hotel, right? And when I got there, they walked me in and they put me right at the stage. I'm thinking I'm gonna be in the back somewhere. In America, you know how they treat us, brother. If you don't, we live in a racial and in a class structured society. So if you don't have the right skin or the right capital, you get put in the back somewhere. But they put your brother Bashir Muhammad Patah Akinyele right at the stage, brother. Just amazing, man. It is amazing. I'm tearing up thinking about it right now, Baba Zaid, brother Chris. Tearing up.
I know how you feel, Bashir. Chris, let me pivot to you, and we got to get ready to wind the segment up too,
Yes.
because I got our elder comrade Bullwhip coming on.
Oh man,
talking about the street naming ceremony.
The OG Panther, power to the people. Yes.
Give him the justice that either that Christian. Now you got to see some things on the cultural front too. I'll ask this to both of you, but Chris, you may have gotten to see more of this than Bashir, right? Yesterday was the birth anniversary of the great Marcus Garvey, and Marcus Garvey was laughed at for echoing the notion that was called back to Africa, meaning the decolonization of our people through Pan-African lens and liberating the African continent, and then going back to the continent to develop it at whatever place and quarter we can to do that. Cuba is especially proud of when they went back to Africa, particularly to Angola, when Angola came under attack by what was then the hated apartheid regime of South Africa. And when South Africa was under apartheid, that particular military regime was the military superpower of Africa. What kind of what have either of y'all have got a chance to see or meet any of the combatants from Angola, right? And how that has and it demonstrated what that has meant to folks who have done that, and what that has meant to Cuba in a very personal way as a African descended country.
Yeah, I think shout out to Comrade Bullwhip talking about a combatant of the revolution. But yeah, I mean the presence of these solidarity projects that Cuba has been a part of in terms of supporting African liberation is very much present within revolutionary projects within the country to this day. We met, and there are people like these people who fought in Angola. Some of them were people who fought in the revolution originally. Some of them even who fought in Angola became teachers or doctors later that went back and helped these governments help set up systems. I mean, we met people who were in Angola, in Namibia, in South Africa, not just as soldiers, but as doctors, as teachers, and sometimes both. And then now they're back in Cuba, and they're like in their 70s, but they're still a part of projects, and they're very much, um, heavily involved. Some of them were members of the Solidarity Organization that Cuba has, ECAP, International, Commission of like People's Friendship, um, which facilitates delegations internationally, like the Vencer Ramos Brigade, and who, by the way, the president of ECAP is a former political prisoner held in the United States named Fernando Gonzalez. Is also lifting up the importance of Cuba's support for our political prisoners here in the United States, like Mumia Abu Jamal. But yeah, the presence. I think one of the things that struck me was the first time that I went to Cuba, and they were having a presentation and discussion on the new family code, which completely rewrites the legal basis of a family in Cuba. It completely deconstructs the colonial patriarchal notions of what a family is, and it has provided a big platform for rights, especially for like LGBTQ Cubans, and quote unquote non-traditional families. And people who are involved in these talks and these projects were people who fought in Angola, and they're still very much present and a part of this, and they make an intentional effort of connecting these elders, these combatants, to the current generations coming up, who are then becoming involved in politics. And if we think about that and put that into context of our revolutionaries and our revolutionary organizations, our anti-colonial organizations here in the United States, whether they be from the Black Power movement, from Puerto Rican nationalist movements, from indigenous movements. One of the stated aims of COINTELPRO was to separate the radical tradition from younger generations that followed the 1960s and 70s. And to a large extent, that's been the project of holding political prisoners in the United States. That's been the aim of the government's assault on revolutionary movements to this day, so that those ideas are trapped, and the youth don't know that tradition. They don't have a lineage to connect radical ideas to. And Cuba makes intentional effort, to make sure that their memory, that their history, that their long-term anti-colonial struggle that goes before the revolution with Fidel and Raul and them, that goes all the way back to the time the first indigenous people fought the Spanish in Cuba. And they commemorate this one man named Hathaway as their first revolutionary, who was a Taino chief. They make sure that memory is told and that it's not lost. And where there are gaps in that memory because of the way history was colonially constructed in Cuba, they make intentional efforts to correct that, and they're still making efforts at that today. That's why they call it a revolutionary process, and not just like this happened and now we're here. They're continually making efforts at resolving internal contradictions every day. So.
Absolutely. Baba Zaib, I know we got to get ready to go, but my tour dedicated itself to a day for Cuba's revolutionary culture. All right. And so, the tour took me to Revolutionary Museum and, like Chris said, revolutionary community projects. All right. And it was powerful. I learned so much about Cuba's struggle for independence and against the U.S. backed Batista dictatorship. And many aspects of the revolution were directed by, again, African Yoruba traditions. And the Yoruba traditions originated from West Africa, like I said, what is now known as Nigeria. All right. And I don't want to go deep into that because I know we got to go to the next segment. But I spent a lot of time learning about, the revolutionary movement for Cuba. And it was very powerful, man. And it's a lot of miseducation that we're receiving in America about the Cuban Revolution, for real. All right. But go ahead. Oh, I was going to say that I just want to end my little piece with a quote from, guess who? Nelson Mandela. All right. Mm-hmm. Can I just quote the brother? All right.
Go ahead and quote the brother. You got the mic.
All right. He said, from his earliest days, the Cuban Revolution has also been a source of inspiration to all freedom-loving people. We admire the sacrifices of the Cuban people in maintaining their independence and sovereignty in the face of the vicious imperialist orchestrated campaign to destroy the impressive gain made in the Cuban Revolution. Long live the Cuban Revolution. Long live Comrade Fidel Castro. End quote. That was from Nelson Mandela.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ibaye Ashe.
Ashe. Jonathan, you were quiet this whole time. I know you got to ask. You got something you got to ask these brothers. What's going on?
I was just listening because I didn't want to keep it going. I know that if I asked a bunch of questions, that would get a long conversation. We didn't have enough time, but
you want to do it down on
have people back. There are a couple of questions that I did want to ask, but those could be for next time. Some of the thing about, like, do you think that it will be easy to visit? Like, a lot of I know before it was illegal and you had to go through educational programs, etc. Then it was like tourism, like under Obama administration for like 2 years. Then under Trump, it's like back to don't spend money there or you'll go to jail.
Right.
So, like, what was the ease of travel in going to Cuba? And can anybody go to Cuba, or is it, or do we have to go through educational institutions? Like, could I just book a plane to Cuba right now and just go hang out, or do I have to go through educational institutions or religious institutions and philanthropic organizations?
Well, of course, you want to take the microphone.
Yeah, if I could jump on that, because I think that raises a very important question of, again, we talked about COINTELPRO, we talked about the continuing significance of government repression against our people's movements. So there are several visa licenses that are associated with travel to Cuba. Obviously, you can't bring back any goods from Cuba.
That's right.
No rum, no cigars, no coffee, nothing like that. Anything plant-based you can't bring back. There are heavy restrictions on trade and travel. You cannot go as a tourist now. There has to be specific licenses and specific visas for you to legally travel to Cuba. So some of them are educational ones.
Right.
The one I think that the Vincent Ramos Brigade runs under is support for the Cuban people. Some nonprofits are able to get licenses, but they're still harassed with that. Like IFCO Passes for Peace is repeatedly harassed for their license qualifications. Several people who have gone on recent delegations to Cuba, including the May Day delegations, have been stopped and detained at the airport, especially coming back into Miami.
That's right.
When we traveled, we had several people stopped before they even flew to Miami. We had people coming back from Passes for Peace who were detained in Miami. We had when we were about to board the plane, they had like several ICE officers, ready in the tunnel after we had passed, got our boarding passes checked and everything. And then they held the plane for for a while. So there is intentional intimidation. There are, that's also one of the main things about why we also encourage traveling with a delegation or with an organization, is also because when we do travel and when we do engage with these things, it's not in a touristic manner. It's in a way to be in solidarity with the Cuban people, also to be militant about it. It's to be disciplined and also to have the legal preparation in order to deal with these things, so that you don't end up giving a bunch of information that they're looking for when they do intimidate you, when you do get stopped at the airport, because that will happen and has been increasing over the last couple years.
That's right.
And so there is the government is stepping up in light of the recent pressure on Cuba, again, putting them on the state terror watch list, Obama raising the bounty on Assad Shakur.
Yes.
And also because they know the influence that Cuba has on the international community.
Absolutely.
And I was gonna even well, no, I mean we I know it's time to go.
Yeah. Hey, John, my Cash App, I paid for my trip through Cash App. Unfortunately, it's because I did that. Cash App blocked.
Oh, you lost access to Cash App.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to delete. I deleted it actually today, because
It's considered contributing to the economy. You ain't supposed to be
absolutely.
doing
Yep.
it. Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
it's real.
wild.
What Chris is saying is absolutely on point. Real.
And so it doesn't matter in terms of the administration, because even though we could do tour, like, do you think that there's any level of like loosening that now, or they're like, nah, we're trying to win Florida, even though we're not going to win it?
Chris.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the political spectrum is arguably shifting more to the right. If you're going to try to win Florida and win those Miami Cubans or Miami Latinos that come from the rich classes, lighter skinned classes of Latin America and the Caribbean, I mean, I don't think that, I don't know if I mean, it's hard to tell whether there'll be actual loosening of pressure on Cuba unless, people's movements put pressure, to fulfill that demand. And also, we don't know what's going to happen with the upcoming presidential election. When Trump was in office, he put harsher sanctions on Cuba, and Biden has continued those policies. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring on our next guest in, and we can to start that particular segment. Is there hip hop artists who you listening to? Why listen? Who is there now? We're always going to ask that. But sure, we haven't talked in a while, so
yes. I mean, I'm listening to the classic joints, man. Well, I'm not gonna say all of them, but I'm just gonna say one of my all-time favorite MC, and that's Rakim.
Okay.
I'm vibing to Rakim right now. Move the crowd. Microphone Fiend. 50 years of hip hop. 50 years of hip hop. He's number one on my list. And right behind KRS-One. Right behind KRS-One. But I'm vibing right now to Rakim, the God MC. Peace to the God, Rakim.
All right, how about you, Chris?
I'm gonna shout out Rebel Diaz, which is a hip hop group, a revolutionary hip hop group, originally from Chile, but based out of the South Bronx and also Chicago. They do a lot of music, a lot of content that is actively in support of people's movements and actively in support of political prisoners and an active international solidarity with movements, revolutionary and anti-imperialist movements around the world.
That's what's up. Yeah. Brother John, Baba Zaid, before you let us go, I definitely want to give a big shout out to this brother right here, Bullwhip, man, for real. One of the OG Panthers, for real. Give him a big shout out. All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. For real, man. Love you, big brother.
Thank you, brother.
Love and respect. The original.
Thank you.
No doubt.
Well, I really enjoy hearing you do about your trip to Cuba. You got me like, man, I wish I was with you. I wish I was with you. Y'all don't know how bad I want to go to Cuba. Just go. I want to go, y'all. I want to go.
No doubt, big brother. No doubt.
Yeah.
Wish you could be there. You were there, believe me. You all were there in spirit, brother. For real.
Yes, sir.
Touched. I mean,
a very good show y'all had. Very good show. I like to hear what y'all were saying and the analysis of the show. I was very proud to hear the analysis and what you'll see and say. In the last piece, you speak about the Casanos over there in Florida. Okay, and Jersey.
Yeah,
and they think they could flip the switch, but they don't understand. There's no flipping the switch no more.
That's right. Teach, brother. Teach.
That's dead.
Teach.
And I think, and this system knows that that's dead. It's changing.
Teach.
In another 15 years, if we're still here, if we get rid of the Antichrist, we still here. It's gonna be a different ball game.
Go ahead, teach, brother, teach. Man. Love you, man. Revolutionary love goes out to you, brother.
Thank you. And let me tell you all about us. Let me tell you about us.
You can stay on if you want.
Let me tell you about us. We're doing about 5-6 years ago. I looked at where the office was at, and I know every time we do the parade, African American Day parade, I always stop my car where the office is at and give props. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to name the street if we can do it? Now, I was a little leery of it, but I spoke to my comrades of Black Panther Commemoration Committee, and they said, well, go ahead and do what you got to do and see what happens. You know, it's a saying that God is good all the time. That's what they say. Spirit works with you. The ancestors work with you if you're doing the right thing. In comes Sister Christine Jordan. When I met her, she was
the young sister.
Yeah. When I met Christine and I worked at a senior center together. We volunteered, because that's what I like to do. I volunteer in my community. I've been doing it now since the Panther Party, and I continue to do it to this day. I volunteer in the community, and I met Christine. I'm showing documentaries and movies on the Black diaspora, African American diaspora, African diaspora, the Latino diaspora, and she's speaking the news of the day to the seniors. So here we are, and we sit down and exchange each other in the classes and kick it back with each other. She asked me, I want to be a politician. She was going to run for the council. And I told her straight up, I said, let me tell you something, sister, my sister. I will support whatever you do. I'm 100%, and I will make sure people support whatever you do. But you're going into politics, and you got to be careful of the politicians, because you got to watch whose ring you might have to kiss. And I said, this is why I could never be a politician. I would rather work in the background, be a mover and a shaker. But for you, I will be your mover and a shaker, wherever it has to be. But I told you, just keep in mind, be careful, because even if people look like us, they're not us. And she had an open, conscious mind. So I knew she understood what I was saying. All right, make a long story short, you all know the sister went in. She became a council person.
Wow.
And while she's in there, the so-called African-American Democratic Council here in Harlem, instead of supporting this sister, it was a thing about a building that she went and she asked the man about building this building on 145th Street. What do you consider as putting aside affordable housing? And he said, yeah, I'm do that, blah, 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 so forth, so on. Anyway, make a long story short, she said, how much would that be? He gave her a price. And she said, that is not affordable housing for my community. And of course, those who are part of and I'm not going to name no names, those who was part of the fabric of Harlem politics was against her stopping the man from building this building, and because she looked for a decent part of affordable housing for the community. So because of that, of course, she got a lot of flack from people that supposed to have been helping her or with her. Instead, she got a lot of flack. So she decided that, and also, let me go back. She also supported the Black Panther Party and our political prisoners and everything, because, you know, we always spoke about it.
That's right.
Because of what she did with this housing thing and these people stopping her, it caused her to say, hey, I'm stepping out, which is good. It's good. I couldn't see this young sister being beat down by these old war hog dogs that out there, because see, they have another agenda, and their agenda is kissing rings and flip-flopping with the birds out there. And I'm not going to name no names, but y'all know who's running this city. Y'all know who is part of certain things in New York and so forth, so on for a while. and they've been there. They're entrenched. They are entrenched. And of course, being entrenched, when a new idea come and consciousness say, open up, this is what we need to see. Of course, they don't like changes. And we all know people who don't like changes will never move nowhere. And that's how things go. All right. So while she's there, she helped me, along with the community board, to told us what to do. And I got the petition. Brother Shep and I went out with petitions that people went in the street, the community, and we had folks who signed the petition for us to do the street naming on the corner of 122nd Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard or 7th Avenue, where the old Black Panther office was, which is now a grocery store. So this Sunday, the 20th, we're going out there to rename this street, put a name piece on this street, Black Panther Way.
Check that out.
This will be the first time that anything that we know in New York is named Black Panther outside of our offices.
Teach. Go ahead, brother. Teach.
Okay. Now, I'm going to read a little piece that is going to be on a flyer that we have. The program. And the person who put this piece together was Sister Yasmin, another Black Panther veteran, sisters. And you know, sisters are always doing things in the party. Matter of fact, at one point in the 70s, sisters ran the party.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know that. Sisters ran the party.
That's right.
But this is a piece that Sister Yaz put together on the program, and I hope that y'all can come out and read it. But I want to read this piece because I loved it. It says, no other Black Power movement fed as many children, provided health care to as many residents, educated as many adults, and closed as many people as did the Black Panther Party while being attacked, killed by police, and imprisoned by the government.
62 community survival programs. 60.
Okay. When brother, and may his soul rest in peace, both of them, Brother Matulu and Brother Curtis Powell, when they were out there, because I knew them, I was with them, and they were doing acupuncture, they were cleaning up the heroin addicts in the streets of Harlem.
That's right.
They were cleaning up, hear me, do y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes,
they were cleaning up the heroin brothers and sisters in Harlem using acupuncture that nobody really knew what it was all about. Because it's an old ancient piece by our brothers from the Asian brothers and sisters. So nobody knew about this. But Brother Curtis Powell and Brother Matulu Shakur was the main factors who opened the whole clinic, everything.
That's right.
So while we're doing the street naming is for our fallen comrades who have passed, especially here in New York. The co-name is dedicated to the living memory of the fallen comrades of the original New York State Black Panther Party. And if you come, you will get a program. You'll see everything we're doing. We're going to be calling out their names. We're going to be releasing balloons afterwards. And we're going to have some very good speakers who are going to speak. And especially Veteran Panthers going to be speaking, okay?
Yes, sir.
So that the people will get an idea and remembrance of our legacy in the Harlem community. I myself, like I said, a mover and a shaker. I am a little upset with what is happening in this whole wide country of I want to say ours, but it is ours by a venture of us putting this. I'm on radio. Or putting this stuff together. Where it's Brother Zahid, you know I had to check myself. It is ours by certain ventures because we helped build the cities and infrastructures in this system.
That's right.
But what's killing me right now is when I heard this critical race theory. The first time I heard it, I told people, these people are trying to change the way that education is given in our schools. Nobody believed that what I was saying. People was giving me all kinds of other things it was for. Now I heard, I didn't see it, y'all, so there's no investigation. I didn't see it, but I understand there's a piece coming out of Florida that has shows like a little cartoon type thing that I heard. I haven't seen, maybe y'all seen it, of Frederick Douglass talking about slaves came over here to learn a trade. Have y'all seen that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did y'all hear about that?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead, brother T.
That we came over here to learn a trade. Africa, Abalone is how old is it? And how many kingdoms was built way before we was kidnapped and brought over here? How many kingdoms were built?
1,000.
What's the old ancient empire of Sunni, Mali, Ghana, the old ancient?
That's right.
Who was the king? Who was the richest man in the whole wide world, even up to today, named Mansa Musa, who left so much gold all throughout Africa that it took them about 20 years to get to not even know New Delhi, because everybody had some kind of gold. They was wealth of the thing, and this was Mansa Musa.
Go ahead,
he was much more money and much more power and influence than any billionaire in this damn country will ever have.
Teach.
That's historically spoken. If you want to check it out, anybody go ahead and look it up. Look him up, Mansa Musa.
Go ahead,
well, let me ask you this kind of question because it's important to appreciate. And I'm talking to younger audiences as I raise this question, and we do this back and forth all the time, talking to young folks. In the common narrative of the party, you would think that the party began and ended with its Oakland leadership, right? And I'm glad for all of its limitations. I'm glad that Dear Mama special came out and did a lot to lift up Afeni, and you know, I was pleasantly surprised at how much they lifted up Motulu and the whole relationship of the party. But I want you to tell our audience, you know, the distinct contribution of the Black Panther Party in New York City, and the other places, to be sure, around the country, other than just Oakland, but the unique contribution of the Black Panther Party to the Black radical tradition in New York City, and why it's so and why it's overdue that this acknowledgement and this honor is finally taking place.
Okay, that's a very good question. This distinct thing of the Black Panther Party in New York, when we was approached to become Panthers in various offices and everything, it was like in the 60s, it was majority of what happened is after Reverend King was killed. That a lot of us young folks at the time, us baby boomers, let me put it straight, us baby boomers, because that's what we were called, we had a different outlook on what we needed to see in our communities. We were fed up of these what we call outrageous slumlords. We were fed up of the medical care. We was fed up of what was happening in our streets. We were definitely fed up with the police, yeah, I'll call them that, vamping on us. And we decided that enough is enough. In the words of Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I believe all of us who became Panthers during that time was all thinking the same thing. One of the things that you will find with New York Panthers, and I believe all the Panthers I have met through the cities I went to, we all are like-minded. That is one of the most beautiful things that is with our culture within this time. We all had the same thoughts of taking care of our community, looking out for the people, and doing what we felt needed to be done. Yes, we surveyed the community. This is one of the things we did. We asked the people what they thought that needed to be done. and we tried to provide the services using the people, stores and everything that's in the community to help out with that. One of the main things that sort of changed a lot of things was our free breakfast program for the children. That went throughout the whole nation that had offices. And even if there wasn't Panther office, of other organizations that modeled themselves after our 10-point platform and program, because this is what we use, what we want, what we believe, that people started doing things and they fed the children. The government didn't think about feeding the children.
That's right.
We did clothing.
Teach.
We went into the cleaners. And mind you, cleaners keep your clothes for what, 30 days, and they get rid of them.
Right.
We said, why get rid of the clothing? We'll take the clothing off your hands and nice and clean. We'll set up racks, and we'll definitely give the people in the community, let them go and pick out their clothing. Nothing was sold to the people. That's number one. Number two, we never asked a penny from this government, not one penny. We sold our papers for 25 cents. Comrades kept a nickel. The 20 cents went into the central office and the regular office in your community. We wasn't looking for nothing from the government. We learned to live as comrades in a commonwealth situation. Now, of course, this government, just like it's doing in Cuba, in which I'm glad, calling everything communist. Now, I'm not no damn communist, first of all. I'm a Panther. I'm not a communist. And some of the ideologies of the communists is not even good for black folks. Because come on, let's be real about this now. But I'm into socialism. That's what I'm into. And this is what the Black Panther Party was a socialism organization, political. They tried to paint us as a gang in the beginning to people. They tried to paint us anti-white, say that we were racist. And we chopped all that down. No, we're not racist. We don't believe in racism. We believe in dealing with this imperialistic, sadistic, racist society to end the injustice that they do to our people. This is what we're all about. And we did it from our work. What you did, we did not just talk it, we walked that walk. And because we walked that walk, we had a lot of our comrades killed. And also we had a lot of our comrades locked up in the dungeons of this country. Brother Zaid when I met Brother Zaid, he was working with political prisoners with us. And this is one of how we all came together, because we really, to this day, we support our political prisoners.
That's right.
Whatever we do, whatever funds that we raise and get, we make Sister Yaz, who is the treasurer of both the National Alumni Association of the Black Panther Party and the Black Panther Commemoration Committee, we make sure that each political prisoner that's locked down get a piece of funding for their commissary or wherever they need it for.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is how we work.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it shows. I want people to know well, first of all, I detest, brothers, I know what I'm getting ready to say. I detest anybody using the word and calling us former Panthers.
That's right.
There's nothing former about us. We're still here. We still have political prisoners. We still have comrades who died as Panthers. We have people locked down. The way they treat them in prison, they treat them like Panthers. So it's nothing former. We are Black Panther veteran warriors.
Teach. Go ahead. That's right.
Okay.
Right.
And one of the things,
Warriors have a whole lot of cubs too.
Teach.
What happened?
Warriors who have a whole lot of cubs too.
Yes, we do have cubs. And our cubs, thank goodness, know who they are and whom they are. And even some of the cubs put together a program of their own working within what we have done, which is beautiful. And they work along with us, and they're also part of each group I just named, the National Alumni Association and the Black Panther Commemoration here in New York. And well, the National Alumni is all across the United States, wherever there was a Panther office or whatever, somebody is part of the alumni association from there. And we recognize what we do at every year, except for this year, it's going to be a little different because our president right now is down. But every year we recognize people from the community and give a plaque to them for what they do in the community. So you see, we tried to present something that we should have been doing years ago. And if y'all know what I mean by years ago, I'm going back years ago. Every time one of us or some of us make a step, there's always that Negro in the bush. That Negro, K-N-E-G-R-O-W, in the bush.
Go ahead.
You taught us to spell it. That's right.
Kissing, you know who's what?
That's right.
That ring. I'm gonna say ring, but you know what I'm talking about. And it has not failed from the beginning. You go back in your history, you read about Gable Posner, Mark Vasey, Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey. You'll always find that Negro. And I always try to say to myself, what do he think or she think they're going to achieve by this? These people don't love you. They use you. And believe me, once a person see that you're not true to yourself, what the hell they need you for?
That's right.
And that's why I don't understand why these folks don't see that. If you're not true to yourself, to your own, why would I think you'd be true to me? I could use you for whatever I want at the time.
Let me get some of these young men and ask you some questions with the couple seconds that we got left. Right? Bashir, Chris, Jonathan, y'all want to ask our elders anything about what's happening on Sunday or what y'all want him to lift up for our audience?
Well, you know what? Let me again, big shout out to Brother Bullwhip and all the OG Panthers, the original Black Panther Party members, man. That they put it down, for the liberation of oppressed people in this country and throughout the world, no doubt. Big shout out to you, Brother Bullwhip, for real. I mean that.
Thank you.
And Brother Bullwhip, this brother right here, Baba Zaid Muhammad, man, this brother is one of our teachers, respected teachers in our community, man. He taught us about revolutionary struggle of Black people, brown people, oppressed people in this country, especially the original Black Panther Party. He was our professor, on Black liberation struggles in America, man. Taught us a lot about Black Panther history, man, and political prisoners, and connected us to political prisoners, connected our community to political
Put y'all
prisoners.
in the street with it.
Absolutely. Big shout out to you, Baba Zaid, for real, man. And he served as the national minister of culture in the new Black Panther Party. And he continued on with that struggle, man, teaching many of us in the new Black Panther Party about the legacy of the original Black Panther Party and the Black liberation struggle of oppressed people in America and throughout the world, and political prisoners. So I just wanted to say that to you, Brother Bull. I know you know his history like that, but some of us too do not know his history like that. But I mean, Baba Zaid is known throughout the community, but I just wanted to make sure, man, folk know how important Baba Zaid is to our community, man, for real, man. He's a legend. I
ain't doing nothing but standing on this shoulder.
Listen, let me say this. Let me say something to you about brother Baba Zaid. Y'all call him Baba Zaid. See, I call him sometimes nephew Zaid or my brother Zaid. But this brother has always stood steady and fast.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I have watched him grow.
Yes.
And watched him do things and see where contradiction lies. And he's seen it, and he at least had the common sense to say that is not correct.
That's right.
And I'm saying this in regards to the new Black Panther Party.
Yes.
In the beginning, I was one of the persons that wanted this. I really wanted to see the new Black Panther Party do something.
Right.
But then things happened.
Yeah.
And when I started seeing the opportunists in there and the people that was in there, what they were doing, right. I noticed that brother Zaid and a lot of comrades that was in there stepped away from that, left that alone.
Yes.
Because they see that they wasn't practicing what the original Black Panther Party had spoke about and was doing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And in this process, Brother Zaid's whole thing just changed. Yeah. And I watched him change. Yeah. And he knows I took him underneath my arm, and we got a little joke that we played with each other about his daughter. So I seen him grow. Yeah. And he's not the only one. Shaka Shakur, I seen him grow. My nephew, I seen him grow. Right. I seen him grow. And a lot of the comrades that was part of the new Black Panther Party, once they started seeing that the way they were going and what the original Black Panther Party did, I noticed a lot of them pulled away and started doing their thing that represent us, which I like. And see, that's what you got to do. You got to serve the people. You know, a true revolutionary person loves the people. I'm sitting here, as old as I am, I'm sitting here. I still love my people, no matter what happened. Hey, listen, I'm telling you something. When the joint jumped off in Alabama, you talking about a brother that was the happiest brother in the world. I threw a chair up in the air. I felt so good.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. I said, I've always had the little thing. When is our people going to stand? You always had that. But when I seen them young brothers stand up and sisters stand up and homeboys swim faster than Michael Phelps across that water, look, to me, that was the beginning of we're still there. We're still there as a people. We're still there. Now, my thing is, I hope a lot of young brothers and sisters out there in those street organizations realize that put that gun up or down and use it for when it's supposed to be right at the right time.
Go ahead.
Stop killing each other.
Go ahead, Elder. Go ahead. Teach.
Using what we call taking one stone, killing two birds.
Oh, I think we lost.
Oh, did we lose Whip?
Oh, we lost Brother Bull Whip. He was about to start teaching, brother.
He was going in.
He was about to start teaching, brother.
He got wound up.
Oh man, we got to get him back, brother. We got to get him back, Baba Zaid.
Yes, if he went out, tell him to come back in.
Yeah, he's gonna probably try and figure out how to jump back in. But while he's doing that, just a reminder, we brought him on because on Sunday, 2 p.m., 122nd Street, yes. Adam Clayton Bow, formerly 7th Avenue, is going to be renamed Black Panther Way in honor of the New York chapter.
All power to the people. All power to the people.
Right? Last week, we lifted up Amy Holder Way. This week, we're lifting up Black Panther Way.
All right.
And those honors were earned in blood.
That's right.
I was going to ask him about the importance of the New York chapter. The New York chapter was the most feared chapter in the Black Panther Party. This is good. Why do I say that? Because of its where it is. New York City, finance capital, media capital, cultural capital, all of those things, right? Young Black revolutionaries capturing the imagination of young people in that market.
Yes.
Scared the white power structure beyond the other chapters. And it's not taking anything away from them. I'm just talking about local American national geopolitical dimensions that were particularly important about the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party. The New York chapter had more political prisoners as a consequence.
Teach.
More political prisoners as a consequence. And we just got the last one out with Jalil Muntakim just a little while ago, right? After it damn near 50 years.
Go ahead. That's right.
50 years in prison. So I just wanted to
lift that up.
Bob, go ahead, Basher, jump in.
I also want to recognize we got Hakim Green on and DJ Rhino.
Yes.
We were getting ready to go to that
Oh, tap to the brothers.
that next segment. We got him in. But Bashir.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a beautiful segue into the next segment. 24 hours apiece. He was talking about, so he was speaking to the issue of senseless community violence when he said, let's put the gun away, let's use the gun not against one another, but against our oppressor. Let's stop the senseless. He was about to get into it and he got cut off, man. But big shout out to DJ Rhino. Right, big shout out to brother Hakim Green, my brother, man, for real. 24 hours apiece, back to Newark, New Jersey, big city. All right, I can't stay, big family. I can't stay. But a big shout out to you, brothers, man.
Well, it's always good to see you, bro. So for the short time where I did get to see your face, always a pleasure, bro.
Yes, sir. Keep up that good work.
But we will see you. We will see you at 24 hours apiece on the 1st, right?
Absolutely, I'll be there, brother. You know that. Excellent. I'll be there. Excellent. If you need me for anything, I'm there. Hell, you just need me to stand by on
yes, sir.
I'm there. All right.
Yes, sir.
And shout out to DJ Rhino, holding it down, keeping this legacy of hip hop culture alive. That's my brother right there. Love you, man. All right, family. Hotep. I'm just net.
Peace.
Salute.
Peace. And so, congratulations, Hakim, on the production of 50 years of hip hop in New York City at the at Yankee Stadium, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was a lot of people don't know that you were one of the producers of that event. You produced part of that event.
Yeah, 24 hours apiece. KRS made the call, said, listen, we got to do something free for the community. We know this is the Yankee Stadium event, which was huge. It was legendary. It was phenomenal. But, it was a ticket price attached to it, and hip hop is from the people, so we got to give back to the people and do something for free. And KRS-One kind of spearheading that only makes sense. We did our concert on Sedgwick Avenue, right in front of 1520, the official birthplace of the culture. Big shout out to Kool Herc. Big shout out to Cindy Campbell, his sister, who threw that jam back on August 11th, 1973. 50 years later, here we are celebrating this wonderful culture of ours called hip hop. And it's touched everywhere. It was born in New York City, but hip hop, the elements were all around everywhere. People were doing hip hop before we called it hip hop. We had our version of it out in Jersey, and we were expressing ourselves as young men and women. And the form that it took was hip hop to the T. And so to celebrate that 50 years in is like amazing.
At the place, right? Like
at
50 years
at the
place where it started. No one else, in terms of at the place where it started, your production company, and KRS-One.
So the Temple of big shout out to the Temple of Hip Hop. KRS has taken over 1520. He manages the building. They have the community center, which that party took place in. Chris now does programming. It's like a little mini museum, got some artifacts and some things on the wall that you need to go see for its historic value. If you ever get a chance to go to 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx to the community center, so right up there on the first floor, you'll see hip hop in full expression. KRS-One might even come up out of that building. So yeah, we did it right there. We did a Thursday night. We bought in August 11th, which was on Friday. We treated it like it was New Year's. So we cut champagne, pop bottles, cut a cake. And then the next day was just hip hop. So graffiti, breakdancing, MCing, DJs on the turntables. We just were there expressing hip hop on the 11th all day. And then the following day was the actual concert. And that was amazing. Cold Crush Brothers, Public Enemy, KRS-One, Fat Joe, CL Smooth, Mr. Cheeks, Talib Kweli, myself, of course, Mad Lion, Edo G. Who else was out there, man? The list goes on and on. Everybody. Yeah. It was good to see Flav and Chuck rock that stage, though. That was amazing.
I love Chuck. Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So the DJ Rhino. I know you want to jump in as well. Your sound is off.
He's muted.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, yeah, no, I saw some of those performances, man. It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and I also saw clips of the performances, but for the museum, for the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Oh yeah.
Some of those performances too. I saw Shan finally got some of his shine. You know, there was a thing going on, you know, between Shan and Nas. You know, Shan felt like Nas wasn't pulling them in. You know,
Really?
Yeah. He
Oh
felt
man, really? I didn't hear about
was
that.
a big, you know, let me tell you, ever since LL with the Rock the Bells thing, man, it's been like a big Queens thing, man. Like the energy for Queens has been real strong.
Mhm.
So I know when Nas was doing stuff, you know, I guess you know, Shan felt some kind of way. He felt like Nas wasn't pulling him in, but sure enough, you know, things came through, you know, for Shan, you know, and he got his shine on there, you know, to do his
Yeah,
thing.
he performed at Yankee Stadium as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I saw that performance. Nas's performance there at Yankee Stadium was dope as well, man. He brought out the Queen. You know what I mean? He brought Lauryn Hill out there, and she did her thing. You know, just banged through a few of her hits. You know what I'm saying? But she was on point and sounded good. There was times where she sounded a little bit like maybe she was tired. You know what I'm saying? Like out of breath. You know what I'm saying? But she still kept it in pocket through the whole time. So, you know, shouts to Lauryn Hill, shouts to Nas for the performance, man. Also, he brought out Cool G Rap. You know what I'm saying? It was good to see Cool G out on the big stage like that.
Man,
representing.
Philly hip hop.
Yeah.
That was real dope.
Yeah.
That was real dope.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a great year. All the whole
year, man. Yeah, I mean, it's been full. You know what I'm saying? It's been full of just a lot of hip hop performances. People that you haven't seen in years. You know what I'm saying? For some generations, they've never seen them before ever. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's even like, you know, there was stuff going on online about, you know, with LL, you know, he's getting like these comments about, you know, people not they didn't even know about his music career. They know him from
right. Oh yeah. Oh, he was a rapper.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, you rap too? Oh, you do this? Like, yeah, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, it's crazy, but it's like that's a shame. That's a shame when you have somebody who. One of the people who opened up doors for us.
Yeah, man.
Like he's the first Drake.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's the first solo, you know, mega
solo dude,
Hollywood,
mega
superstar rapper, like really before Will Smith.
Oh yeah, definitely before Will. Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean? So
because before him,
he was a rapper first. It's like the disconnect is like, oh man, come on, we can't.
That's cool. The kids were like, that actor?
Right. And that's what I was mentioning last week when I was mentioning, you know, Red and Meth's performance. You know, Meth is known for being the lawyer on Power. You know what I mean? And
the lawyer on Power.
To hear his voice and to hear him so in pocket.
He's still nice.
Yeah, he's still
Red, nice bars.
Yeah, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure, man. More than a pleasure, man. Just to see all of these dudes. Rest in peace to all the hip hop cats that didn't make it to this point, but they definitely contributed, you know, throughout the 50 years of hip hop, man. You know what I'm saying? And of course, I always got to big up my man Tane One. Rest in peace, Tane One and DJ Chaos. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many, man. You know, Gov Matt. So many out there, man. That that didn't make it, man. But they did a lot, man, and they lived it, man. They lived the culture. You know what I'm saying? I want to shout the Fallen too, man. You know what I'm saying? But we seen some great performances. Another dope performance that I saw at Yankee Stadium was when Snoop brought out Dougie and Slick Rick, because Dougie and Slick Rick had performances at Yankee Stadium earlier that day, but they were separate. And I know a lot of people were like, how come they're not performing together? But when Snoop got on, Snoop brought Dougie Fresh out there, and then he brought Slick Rick out there, and they finished out Lottie Dottie together. And then and Dougie closed it out with some crazy breath control drum roll that he killed it, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
nuts, man. But
like talk about 50 years of hip hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was there at the Fun House when Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh did Lottie Dottie for the first time, Christmas 1984. I was there.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Like it's those moments where
Yeah.
you reflect on the history. Like Naughty by Nature as the new style on a high school talent show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I was there.
tell
I
it.
saw Naughty by Nature form. It's one of the greatest rap groups of all time. Like I was there.
Yep.
I met my partner Tuffy battling Proswell and Wyclef on the dance floor.
Wait. Stop.
That's right. Let him tell it. Let him tell that history.
Okay, so slow down. What did you say? You I got to repeat that.
Montclair State College was a party in the student center. Was it Bland? No, not Bland. Whatever it's called. And I didn't know Tuffy was probably. I think it was the first party I had gone to because I just transferred in. Tuffy was a year ahead of me. So you know, I'm in my boogie mode. I'm about to cipher. What's up? Let's get it in. Who want it? I start tearing Wyclef up, and Proswell act like he wants some. And then this other green-eyed dude stepped to the joint on my side, and we started handling these dudes, tearing them up. So I didn't know Proswell, no Wyclef. Officially met Tuffy later on that week when I went into Blanton. I was standing out in the lobby. He comes down. He was like, "Oh, yo, you the kid?" So I was a backup dancer this artist named Nicole, who had a record on Sleeping Bag. So I'd already
Stop. I didn't know you danced.
What? Jersey, bro. I cut this rug, son.
Didn't know.
What? That's what I'm saying. Like, I used to dance for Naughty when he was.
You got to be part of all elements, man.
Like I was the secret weapon when New Style would go to New York and didn't really get the respect that they deserved as MCs because they was from Jersey. It was like, yo, go get Hawk Money, because Hawk Money would tear you up. I come in, choreograph the whole thing, go to Apollo with New Style, killed it. Nice with it. So I handled Wyclef and Prod. That was like nothing. Yeah, so when I was a background dancer for this artist named Princessa, who had a song called "Show Me How to Dance." It was a group, the Bongo Boys out of Austria, and she was the rapper, so she needed dancers, and my peoples had told her about me, so she put me on. I'm traveling around the world. I'm talking about all over the country, Europe, the whole nine, as a school, get my scuba scrap on, right? We sit in the limo in front of Texas Stadium. It was some big radio show, and I'm in the car, and OPP comes on, and it blew my mind. I'm like, these is my peoples, you understand? And at that moment, it was like, all right, bruh, it's time to spit them bars. It's time to hang up the dance shoes, pick up the pen and the pad, get in that booth, get with it. And that's what put the battery in my back. And it was funny because everybody laughed at me. Oh, now you an MC, now you a rapper, even Tuffy. So I was writing Tuffy's rhymes. When we first, I was writing his rhymes because he didn't believe in it. I'm like, listen, I see the formula. I see what it is. It's present, stage control, all that. I got that. We got that. Just come on. So I put pen to paper, writing records, writing songs, and just over the next year and a half, 2 years, sharpening the craft until we could get in front of KRS-One. And then, boom, you see what it is. But just to come up in the culture, to see it firsthand. Bismarck, man, it's before I knew KRS-One. I didn't know Chris. Me and my friend Rhonda go to breakfast with Biz, my boy Backspin, big shout out to Backspin. And what's her name? She's actually a teacher in East Orange. What's her name? What's her name? Precious. She had a single out, doing well, and we sat in IHOP with Bismarck, and he was talking about Kara because I was on my conscious thing. So Chris was a big before I met him. Oh, and Biz was like, oh, Chris whole first album he busted his gun, Hakim.
And you talk about Bismarck Key, like is that the you got what I need?
Yeah, legend. One of the greatest, rest in peace, Bismarck, like a genius. He's responsible for Big Daddy Kane. Yeah. Responsible. Yeah, Bismarck? Big Daddy Kane will tell you that. Yeah.
No, what's that story?
Well, that story is, Biz was like, known everywhere. Biz was from Long Island, but is known in Brooklyn, Queens, East Orange because of Cool V and Godfather D, Dex. They're from East Orange, so Biz used to be over here in the 80s, just hanging out, right? And
Biz was a nomad, man. He was everywhere.
Remember Goose on Walnut Street? Right there, a little club, and they be hanging out there. Big shout out to Cool V. So Biz met Kane in a battle and was impressed so much by Kane. He said, listen, when I get on, I'm going to put you on. Biz got on. Kane wrote a lot of Biz's rhymes, Picking Boogers. What else? The Vapors. All that's Kane writing for Biz. And, Kane owes everything to Biz, according to Big Daddy Kane. Owes everything to Biz. Like he gives him ultimate. Matter of fact, there's a documentary on right now about Biz Markie on Showtime, and that's what I'm gonna watch tonight because everybody's talking about it, and they talk about how when Kane and Rakim talk about Biz, oh man, keep your napkins, your tissue close by.
Nobody beats the Biz.
Nobody beats the Biz. Big shout out to Biz Markie, yo. Man,
and Biz also was a throwback. Because see, I always, I try to put everything in an African lens, right? Hip hop was built on a signifying principle. Biz Markie, Flavor Flav, they were throwbacks to the gestures in the royal courts, right? You want on one level you want to laugh at them, but they come so tough with what they bring in, you definitely got to give them their space.
Yeah, and you always had to respect their company too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's right.
Because you got to think, all right, Flavor Flav, he may seem like a clown or this, that, and the other, man. You know what I'm saying? Look who Biz Markie was rolling with. He had the juice behind him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. None of those dudes was playing around. You know what I mean? So, yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely, that's the truth.
Yeah.
That is.
Did you lose Hakim? Where he go? Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about 24 hours apiece when he comes back. But DJ Rhino, what else has been going on with you, man?
Man, I was just, before coming on, I was listening to this interview with Sway. It was Grandmaster DXT from back in the day, man, and he's one of the pioneer DJs. But he was just talking about, because there's been this whole conflict of when hip hop really started, and what is the date, and is there a date? Should there be a date? You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many things of the elements that took place before, the organization of the culture, the coming together of the culture. You know what I'm saying? The DJing and the graffiti and this, that, and the other. And he was mainly speaking on the DJs. We're talking about Kool Herc. We were speaking on, hip hop starting, at the back to school party that was held August 11th, 1973 at 1520 Cedric Ave. But then they speak about who Kool Herc's influences were. They speak about Disco King Mario and DJ Smokey. They speak about Grandmaster Flowers and Pete DJ Jones, and a lot of DJs that came before them that inspired them, that basically took on what it was started what it was that they took on. You know what I'm saying? They started what it was that people like Herc and Flash and Bambaataa took on. The DJs before them that kind of zoned in, kind of got away from the so-called disco music and got more someone more into the breakdowns of the music and playing soul music and getting into the breakdowns of the soul music. And so that's what these DJs were doing prior to Herc. And, you know, he was just telling that story. So it's like, you know, it's interesting, man, just to hear people's influences and where it comes from. And it's all relative, you know what I'm saying? I don't really judge anybody or anything, you know, when it comes to that, man. I just take it all in as information because it's good to know, you know, where these influences come from.
Right.
But yeah, but it's a deep story, man. You know, and then, you know, they talk about, you know, the Brooklyn DJs, how Brooklyn was really where the big DJ culture was happening in New York at the time. You know what I'm saying? Before it was a thing in the Bronx, you know, the Brooklyn DJs were making it happen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was just deep, man, to just get some of that information from a pioneer like Grand Mix or DST who was there during those times. You know. Yeah.
24. I was gonna say 24 hours of peace is coming up right now, right? And it's what is it this year? Who is going to be there? And can you give us some background for people who don't know what is 24 hours of peace? And is it any different this year?
24 hours of peace, love, unity, safely having fun. That's what 24 hours of peace is about. It's a 24-hour peace festival we've been doing for the last 13 years in Newark, New Jersey, the great city of Newark, New Jersey, courtesy of Team Baraka administration, understanding how to utilize hip hop culture to support anti-violence work, build a stage, bring out, you know, entertainers and artists, and focus on arts and culture, but wrap it around messaging. So people know where to get services, people know where to get help, people know where to plug in. Office of Violence Prevention, Trauma Recovery, and the Brick City Peace Collective and New Direction are three great examples of the year-round work that's going on in Newark, New Jersey to deal with violence and crime, right? So building a stage and bringing in, you know, high-level acts and pair that with local artists helps get that message across and just brand peace. Like we brand everything else in our community, we can brand peace, you know, not just for one day, but for every day of the year. We just use this particular 24 hours to bring attention to it and show people the right direction. Here are the services that are here for you. This year's lineup is crazy. Hold on for a second. Let me pull it up because it's crazy.
Oh, nice. Okay. And it is September 1st and September 2nd.
Yes. September 1st, September 2nd. We starting this year a little early, so get there early. You know, like the usual jump offs at 6. Get there early. We got some special things happening. Get there early.
So probably get there right after school. Oh no, school hasn't even started yet.
Yes, get there. Exactly though. But you in the right ballpark. Get there early.
Okay.
After
lunch. Have lunch, then go.
We got Nonchalant. Y'all remember Nonchalant? 5 o'clock in the morning. Where you gonna be?
5 o'clock in the morning.
She coming through. Pleasure Peace coming through.
Okay.
AZ's coming through.
AZ.
Milk D. Mr. C.
Mr. C, the finisher.
Lil Mo.
Lil Mo. I love Lil Mo.
Red Man.
Of course.
Ghostface Killer.
Oh.
You buried that one. Like Ghostface Killer.
Ghostface Killer.
Right.
DJ Quad's going to handle the house festivities. We got some special treats doing that. You know, Jersey's all about that house music. So I expect to see all my house heads out there on Springfield Avenue, Bergen, from 12 to 4. You know how we get it in. DJ Quad's on the 1 and 2s, no doubt. We got Bobby V, Kels. You know, we got Didi Osama, 2K Baby, Lil Papa, Too Rare, and working on something for Saturday. We still ain't got our show stop.
I just sent you something. Hawk, I just sent you something in a text message. The sister I want you to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there it is. All right.
So
Text it to me.
Mhm.
So this is the 50th anniversary of hip hop. You've been doing 24 hours a piece for a while. What year is this?
All right, this is so we started in 2010 and we did every year except for 2018 and 2020, which was COVID year.
Right.
So every other year we've done it.
So when you're looking at this year, I remember the last year that it happened, it got national news and national recognition that Newark, right? Because I know also anti-violence, the Office of Anti-Violence Prevention is a part of this. And where on that weekend, all over the country, there were spikes in violence in Chicago and Philadelphia, right? And in different areas, they were like, whoa, there's a spike in violence, but in Newark, less.
Yeah.
Have people talked about that?
I don't think they've talked about it enough, just the idea of focusing on peace for that weekend, I feel helps out a lot. And, it's a continual steady message of raising the vibration of peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. It's not just the one day, it's all the work that goes on in the city when 24 hours of peace, the event is not happening, and keeping people engaged, especially young folks engaged in activities and opportunities, I think is extremely important. And that goes a long way in bringing the violence down. Knowing that people actually care about them, gives you something to, chill, we got things going on over here. We ain't got to bug out. We got, everything from basketball leagues to, employment opportunities. And, there's a number of things that, we reinforce this with, and it's all out there the day of 24 hours of peace. All these different local organizations are plugged in and they'll be doing their outreach so you can find a place, get in where you fit in. We out there. Last year we did 20K. I would think we do 20K this year too as well.
In terms of 20,000 people coming out.
20,000 people throughout the weekend came out.
They'd be there. They'd be there too. Yeah.
And where is it? Because it's a different place every year. Where is it this year?
Actually, it's the same place we did it last year: Springfield Avenue, Bergen, and Littleton.
Also, it's right by the Home Depot kind of thing.
Home Depot, the Cineplex, right there. I think we're doing it right there. Live and direct.
Same spot as last year.
Yeah.
It's what?
Same spot as last year.
Same spot as last year. We were born in the South Ward. Big shout out to Clinton Avenue. Y'all know what it is. And then we moved downtown, Broad Market. That was huge. We did that 2016 to 2021 was Broad Market.
My daughter said that was her favorite spot, was Broad Market.
Yeah, Broad Market. Yeah, we did the other side of Clinton Avenue. And then we did Springfield Avenue and Bergen, which is where we are right now. Yeah. Yeah, man.
All right, so and DJ Rhino, I know that you have the Wu-Tang shirt on. What's that about?
Oh no, just happy born to Master Killer, man. Happy born to Master Killer.
Happy born Master Killer.
One of the unsung spitters of Wu-Tang, of the original 9. You know what I'm saying? People don't talk about Master Killer enough, man. But that's a deep brother, man. And I wish I had the info. I forgot. Normally I have it right here. He's actually related to one of the great jazz musicians of all time, but I just don't have the name with me right now. Who it is? Okay. But big ups to Master Killer, man. Happy born to Master Killer. Wu-Tang forever.
Yep.
And is there anything else going on because I know that we always talk about hip hop, we're getting in back and forth, right? Like, and you have a lot of facts that you always talk about. What are the things that what else is jumping off from you?
For me first? No, go ahead. Huh?
August 30th, we're gonna be doing an event at La Rouge Lounge called the Madism Cipher, along with Vibes in the City. More or less like a talent search. So look out for the flyer, look out for the Eventbrite, Vibes, Madism, Eventbrite. So you can sign up and get in this cipher, the Madism Cipher.
Yes, sir.
Where we marry cannabis and hip hop.
Yeah,
that's a good marriage. That's a great marriage. That's a good
link.
That's a good link.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's the lead up to 24 Hours Apiece, and keep it hip hop. Madism Cipher.
Yeah.
You know what I'm about to say might be controversial, but it seems like, and after our community got so traumatized by crack, and a generation got lost from crack, it seemed like, at least for about 20 years, up until very recently, the only drugs that we really did was like weed. We were like, harder drugs. We're like, nah, that's drugs. Those are for the suburbs. Those are for the suburbs.
Yeah.
And coke, the Oxycontin, the stuff that was like, we were like, no.
And weed's not a drug; it's an herb.
Right.
And that has been the conversation, and I think it kept an entire generation.
It's an herb. Like
more recently.
Yeah, seeing the decriminalization of the plant, the cannabis plant, it's been a beautiful thing for me.
My FBI file started with selling that shit back.
Yeah, so but to see our people take advantage of the opportunities is what we got to focus on, because these corporations come in, these big boys come in with all this money, and they buy up the opportunity. So we got to make sure that social justice component is social equity is key.
That's right.
I think one thing that was really good about the New Jersey law is that you could have a lot of weed on you and not get arrested, right?
Yeah.
Like you could have like unsmokable amounts of weed on you and not get arrested, which has actually been, I think, healthy for the community overall, because no one should ever go to jail for weed ever again.
No.
Like shouldn't happen, right? Like you should be able to have copious amounts of weed on you and not even think about seeing the inside of a jail. Police shouldn't come up to you, shouldn't bother you, shouldn't talk to you.
It's grass,
right? And too many of us had our lives ruined for just possession.
Yeah,
they throw us in jail, and they'd only keep enough to hold us behind bars and smoke the rest themselves.
Yep.
All we do is spark.
Madism.
That's it. The Madism Cipher, August 30th, La Rouge Lounge on Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey. Come through, get these bars. I got hot bars for all you MCs out there. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop culture, and I'm ready to share these bars with whoever want them.
All right, Rhino.
That's it for me, man. I forgot what it was. I had something else that I was going to talk about, but I forgot, man. It was mainly just covering. It was just mainly just covering all of the stuff. Like I said, there's been so much stuff, man. That's been, celebrating hip hop's 50th, man. It's crazy. I'm going to be in Freehold tomorrow at the Hall of Records at another 50th hip hop celebration. It's going to be an African Arts Festival, but it's going to be a celebration of the 50th. It's going to be in Freehold tomorrow between 12 noon and 7 p.m. So that's where I'll be tomorrow.
Do you think this just needs to keep going? Because hip hop got fun again. This year, hip hop got so much more fun.
But you know what that comes from? Because we got to see the roots of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't leave out the roots of it all, man. And with the brother, the Elder Panther that was on earlier, man, we were talking about just, like, we got and what Hawk does, man. Like, seriously, man, we got to really put more focus on the positive messages, but not just the positive messages, but show and improving. Like, I always go back to the Jadakiss thing with the verses, man. You got to show and prove. We can't just talk about it and be like, oh, well, you got to do this. This is how it's got to go. You got to show and prove. Like, it's time now for the artists who know better to show better. You know what I'm saying? And we got, and it's up to all of us to put focus on those artists who are doing that. Because I know Hawk's been doing it.
Can I spit these bars? Can I spit these bars?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
You know what it is. I was raised on rap, made me a king like Tim over beats that's fat. Without the back band, just DJ mic stand. Before I wrote rhymes, I was the ill hype man. With flavor, I became a star with a spliff. Kill Santa Dead is how I learned to shoot the gift. Sucker MCs, always trying to diss, but I rock to the PM Dawn where rappers consider drift on the memory bliss. I teach a class like Chris. It was like that when it wasn't like this. With an educated rapper and a professor named Griff, a doctor named Ice, we could go down the list. Inspect the whole deck, supersonic like the stat. Sleeping on the bag like Eric and Pash making checks. I'm talking about music over time stands the test. Now I'm on the net trying to find my tribe on a quest. It's a shame people don't miss it till it's gone. I'm shocked rappers nowadays sing the same song. Where we go wrong, the whole culture act like sheeple. I guess the root of evil captivates the people. Daddy make them do mad tricks like Knievel. I'm the king of rock and the king of diesel. It's ludicrous how fake Stilo. They smoke up all your weed and have you fighting Debo. Time for some action, get the bling, make a milli. Put 5 on it, Jackson. Rap is so vanilla. Oops, I mean vanilla. Hold on there, fella. I'm with an attitude reg and cruise like I'm yellow. Quiet is kept. Y'all got the jokes, pin and teller, but a lounge of lyricists underground like cellar dwellers. Rappers can't see me. It's like getting dissed by Helen Keller. Once you check the method, I get you high like propellers.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice.
All right.
And
Yeah,
that's what you mean by show and prove. Have the fun of the wordplay. Have the fun of, because they say that hip hop. I know it's almost time to go, but on this thought, hip hop's not selling like it used to. Right this year, apparently, there's nobody who's like.
Well, the mainstream stuff that's on the radio is not selling.
Right, like
but if you look at the tickets for like Wu-Tang and Nas and people like that and LL Cool J, the tickets are being sold out.
Right.
But I'm talking about the music charts and new music.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like music's digested differently now. Right? The way we access the music we like doesn't register in the mainstream.
Right.
That doesn't mean that the impact is not being felt. It's just that we digest it differently, and it's not the folks who do that over there, which is when hip hop was at its purest, it wasn't a part of the mainstream.
Right.
True.
Exactly.
So if you want the pure hip hop, you can't check for the mainstream. You got to come over here.
Yeah, that's
where
right.
the real hip hop is.
That's right. Always been the case.
Yeah, man.
All right, so
24 hours of peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. The real hip hop is over here.
All right. So we can't wait till September 1st and 2nd. That's going to be great. One last on that. Where is hip hop now? Like, where is hip hop in these? Like, where are the clubs for hip hop? I mean, I'm looking at where do people go? Where is hip hop evolving right now?
Jonathan,
that's
a Monica big question.
And I've got 1 minute left, right?
I mean, since the summertime, it's been outside. It's been outside. It's been at all the parks and everything.
But also, so hip hop isn't what we do; it's how we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So all politics are local. It's hip hop. Like 24. The mayor is hip hop.
Right.
There's big things happening in hip hop that's not about rapping. Breakdancing's in the Olympics.
Right.
Where's hip hop? In the Olympics.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yep.
That's fair. All right. Well, let's continue this conversation.
What's your answer? You got it in.
Yep. We'll continue this conversation next week. Any final words for this week?
Well, Sunday, Harlem, 122nd Street, and Adam Clayton Boulevard for the naming of Black Panther Way for the New York chapter of Black Panther Party. Oh,
okay. Crazy. See what I mean?
That's right. All power to the people, baby.
Nice. We're glad we had our guest on tonight talking about that. That was great. We have to get him back to do a lot more interviews as well. Any other announcements?
August 30th, Hall of Records tomorrow. Hall of Records in Freehold between 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. Freehold, New Jersey. Is going to be an African Diaspora Arts Festival, and I'm going to be spinning there. Elias, the great Follow Me star, Elias is going to be there performing, and it's going to be too much. Yeah.
Follow me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That is the house from Chi-Town.
Talk about inspirational music, man. Feel good music.
Memories and flashbacks.
Yes, sir.
Any other final words?
24 hours apiece, September 1st and 2nd. Springfield Avenue, Bergen. We got Lil Mo. We got AZ. We got Milk D. Nosh Lot. Mr. C. Ghostface. DJ Qua. 2K Baby. Lil Papa. Too Rare. Didi Osama. It's going down. Mama made it town hall.
The
It's gonna be
teacher.
crazy.
Nice. Well,
All
we will be there.
in September.
We will be there. All
All
right.
in.
Take care. Another
Peace,
week.
guys. Salute.
Everyone, be safe. Have fun.
Peace.